Like that, I get to show everybody all my tabs and stuff. There we go. Hello. That's it. See? Hello. Hello.
Testing. Yeah, I can hear me.
Hello, everybody. It's January, what did I say, 19th, 2019? I'll just bump it up. You can just talk a little. Hello.
Hi. How are you doing?
There we go. Now we're in yellow.
Good stuff.
I'll use your red pen.
It should, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's me and Fraser. It's been a while. We were planning, I guess, like we were saying earlier, talking about languages, translating, and then communication. What the word I wanted to use was too much, but failing in communication, talking with people. I'll bump it up just a little bit more, which is very easy to do too, actually.
Indeed. Failing to communicate? Yes. I failed a lot. I know all about failing in communication. I'm the expert.
What do you feel for me that sometimes written language or like text message I find is really good. It's clear. It's to the point. But then other times there is meaning loss. Like you were saying about sign language with to express feelings.
Indeed, yeah. When in terms of written languages, like text messages, how many times it come back to me and I just said like that's not at all what I meant, or like they've picked out like a piece of the message that's obviously not what I intended. That if only I was there to kind of give a smile or to show my frustration, that would come along directly.
Of course, somebody's calling me. America, Florida. Somebody's calling me from Florida.
Oh.
Hello.
Send it right.
Yes, hello. Hey, you're not in Florida. How can I help you? Yes. Yeah. No, I'm here. Uh-huh. Okay, what's the problem you're having? You can talk, yeah? Oh no, man, I'm sorry, man. I don't have money to lend like that. I'm not a bank. I wish I was. All right, take it. You know, in this neighborhood, there are people. I think this guy has a drug problem.
Yeah.
And he's asking me for $20.
I see. I was wondering what they would call me from Florida
because
ask for $20.
He's here. He's here, but like he's using some kind of free app on his iPad or something.
Oh, keys. The number comes like he's come through Florida.
Yeah, he lives next door, and he's a very nice guy. I think he has like a mental disability. I don't know what kind, but like if you were to talk to him, you'll understand. You'll see it. He can barely take care of himself, but a lot of people in the neighborhood smoke crack. I find.
Oh yeah.
That and meth, and it's just like. It's just a little too much when you see it. Like, it's one thing. Yeah. I've been there where, I had a stressful day and I want to smoke a joint, but not like that.
Not to go there. Yeah, I don't know what that takes after to go. Or I don't know. People get there, like you say, people that you might like, that you could talk to regularly, and that you see them going through that. That is tough.
Yeah, because when they have withdrawals, it's a different thing. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I thought, well, if that was the case, he was asking for crack money, you handled it very well.
I don't know for sure, but we're not like friends. This is like a business relationship, sort of, like I gotta take care of things over there. I'm not,
Yeah, I see.
You call me when you lost your key and you need to get in the building.
I got you.
You don't call, or your pipe is busted, You don't call me to borrow $20. The marker. Okay, so...
Yeah, so, languages. That's it. We're talking about Khmer.
Yeah, Khmer. I used to say that too because I would read it in Romicize, or whatever you call it, the characters.
English things, yeah. Khmer. Almost. Okay.
Yeah, I think the guy in that video was showing it, he would put like Kai, and then he would put M-I-A.
Kamai.
Kamai.
Yeah, that sounds Kamai.
But there's different ways. What was the phrase in the book I was reading? They call that transliteration? Something like that.
And you try and put the word. Yeah, okay. So Kamai and sign language.
Yeah, Kamai and sign language.
That's it. So I'm learning Quebec Sign Language.
Oh, it's
Shawn's
really
learning
Quebec?
Kamai. Yeah, it's called LSQ, and essentially it's something of a hybrid between LSF, which is the French sign language from France, and ASL, which is called American Sign Language. American Sign Language is kind of one of the most widely used ones.
And you said Quebec is S.
LSQ. Yeah, Langue de Signes
LSQ.
Québécoise.
Yeah, because I was gonna say ASL, American Sign Language,
That's
but
it.
Quebec Sign Language, the L's got to come first, man. It's got
That's
to be
it.
backwards.
It's got to be backwards. Got to put it backwards. But basically, Quebec language, they use like the whole English alphabet, if you will, and a lot of English words, but then a lot of French words from Langue des Signes Français, from the French sign language.
So it's more so than
it's probably more
slang in Quebecois.
Yeah, and it's just interesting. It's definitely not like it's different than English and French. Like French Sign Language isn't like direct one-to-one to French, like we talked about. There's just no conjugation of verbs, just like in Kamai. In Sign Language, you just have a different way of conjugating. So when we talk about French Sign Language and English Sign Language, it's more just like the English community generally used this one.
Yeah.
And you find, but in general, LSQ, there's very few resources I find online. Well, I found more and more. I've got a course now, but a lot of resources on American Sign Language.
For sure. And then
On French Sign Language is also a big world community, and Japanese Sign Language.
Yeah.
Like those three
I
are the
think
biggest
I've seen
three in the world. And Quebec Sign Language, there's only like 7,000 people in the whole world that speak it. So
it makes
we're
me
pretty
think
small,
about
yeah.
when looking for like this, like when you see pronunciation charts and stuff like that are like for phonically type of thing. They don't necessarily use these kind of like they're going to use like a weird character or maybe like a they use different like when you open a dictionary up and it's got like it's not real
how to say it. Yeah, I got
so
you.
there's an international phonics I should
Like kind of a universal way, like
you pass that iPad.
if you put down certain symbols, everyone would know what sound that makes. That kind
Yeah,
of thing.
exactly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
but it's for like everybody.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm finding it's interesting, and kind of like what you were just saying. The mother of my son, who's from Cambodia, she, like I was saying, for the I love you. So the Kyom Slang Un, but like she was saying, instead of saying this general I for everybody, she would use the bong. But bong is still I for a boy, but again, it's kind of like more of a general. I don't know if I would ask her if it means slang or not, but it's the same thing.
Yeah,
like going
it's
from the France sign language, and then too, it's the same thing here, eh?
Yeah.
For like I have a friend from Paris. When you talk to someone from France and they're here, they either laugh or get upset, really. Like how ghetto the French is.
The
here.
French has actually gone away from the
Vélo.
original.
Vélo.
Yeah.
Okay, international. I'm looking up international.
Yeah, because all those, like, I was fascinated when I got into just sign language that it just removes sound entirely from it. But then, as we were talking earlier, the similarities between Kamai and sign language in terms
really
of
cool.
what do we come across? Low morpheme ratio
Yeah.
and no verb conjugations. Those
Yeah.
two things are similar, and I thought like the morphemes are like making something plural, like putting an S at the end.
Yeah.
Or the morphemes is like
It was what it said, the smallest level of. I don't think it was sound. Was it sound?
Small morpheme to word ratio.
I could bring.
Something like
it's
this.
good. I have the same app on my.
But in the examples, like what we said, like when you want to say in the past tense, there's just a word for yesterday.
Yeah, there is no past.
Like I ate yesterday, eat yesterday.
I think for me, because we're when we're gonna use past tense like that is more with verbs.
Yeah.
So I ran or I walk. I walked down the street. I walked down the street yesterday. It would just be I walked yesterday.
I walked yesterday.
Or yesterday walk I.
Now. Yeah. And those are similar things. Like when I was thinking about sign language, I thought that there were some of those things that were taken out. Like I am working. You just say I work. And the same thing in Kamai. And I thought that some of those things were taken out of perhaps the sign language just by necessity. Like you just can't fit these little words in.
Whereas
So no, it's actually a full language like Khmer.
Yeah, well, this one
Very
too.
similar,
Well,
yeah.
Khmer, as far as I understand, it kind of evolved out of different languages too. So
It's kind of bitter, yeah.
Indo, whatever, scripta, whatever. But there were things like phrases, regular phrases, like you just said, like I work. But for me, the one was interesting was I drive a car, or I drove. The example was I drove the car to work, or I drove a car to work. But the word drive, see, this is the same thing too, where I would have to think in a language.
Yeah.
It's not just to speak, it's to think. And then when they have a word like, I would have to find it here, but here it is, back. Use, work, play, drive, you know? Because you don't play the car, but you're still like using the car.
Yeah.
And how do you use a car? You drive a car, I guess. So that's where, so here, what do we get here? Come back, Lantau Thufker. I know I'm not pronouncing it right, but there you go. Or to go. This one is to go. I grabbed that from to work actually. I was kind of trying to figure out the same thing, but yeah, back. Cause you see that last letter there. That's the first letter on my paper there. The ka.
Yeah.
Back. Baka. Back. I don't know. It is with going, doing. I go to work. There we go. Come to thifker. I don't know. I'd have to hear it. I know I'm not pronouncing it right.
No, but I see how you've broken it up. Like that was the other part that you were talking about Khmer, is that there's just no spaces. And even when you see it like
and then I
phonetically written out, but
colors.
You put color to break up.
No,
that's good because that's.
I'm not even looking at the letters.
Yikes.
When I first saw these letters, I thought I was gonna have to read it like Hebrew or something, like left to right. I was like, this is like way different.
So much different though.
Questions.
But as we talked about before, like how that gives a different perspective. Like you were just saying, like you just have to think differently when you construct it. Like we were talking about a couple examples earlier, like in sign language, you say like that woman, or like you say she is helping him, or she helped him, say, or she is helping him. Just keep it in present tense. Like you have to first of all say she, him, and then help.
This is what I was telling you earlier. Now, you guys, maybe I'll show, but like, I literally am, by learning, I haven't done these yet, but I'm literally doing like children's stuff. Like,
that's perfect.
Like when you're in primary, this is how you draw the letter.
When I learned French, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to go back and say, how do kids learn? Well, they've just got to be like, they've got to let go of their ego. They just got to be able to say, I don't know, I don't understand. Can you repeat that? Just like a kid. Because as an adult, if I have my ego involved, I'm not able to, show my weak side and learn the language. Anyways.
But look
Jack
at this,
and
man.
Jill.
This is actually, like, this is hard to do for me.
Yeah.
For me to draw these characters, it's not easy. Like, and then with the regular pen there, that's the first letter. Like, even that, like, it looks like a simple letter. Like, I can draw that.
Yeah.
But it's not. There.
Because we're always doing like and I don't even know how, like you say, how to
5, 4.
So you're supposed to write that part first.
Yeah, for
and then do the top part.
That was for the other one, yeah. For
too many.
Ka. So it was ka, koa, yeah.
And you're supposed
to koa. And I know I'm not saying them right, but I'm trying.
Something like this. And you're supposed to start up here too.
Yeah, it will tell you to. Yeah, you got to start from the circle in the top. It reminds me of how do you call that in cursory?
Oh yeah.
Like we don't I don't think our kids are taught that anymore. I think they dropped that. Cursive writing.
Apparently, at our school, my kids' class has cursive. Because they learned it that way in grade 2.
It's cool.
So and I don't know. Apparently, and it seems like another kid in the same school didn't learn it. So it seems like it's almost like up to the professor which one.
Or maybe the parents.
But maybe. But within the same school, there was 2 different ways of doing it. So, anyways, my kid is learning script or
cursive. I think I'm probably saying that wrong too. And this is here. Look, see, this is for the vowels, I think. But Now this is a different level now because
Yeah.
there's no English. It's just Khmer. You know, so it's like that.
Did you get like Google does that too, eh? You take a picture of the page.
Mhm.
Have you done that?
I haven't tried that yet. Just like I was saying, I've only used where I draw the characters in themselves and it analyzes it. But like this, I know already does the ka. But you look at that compared to the kids' way. I guess it does look the same because it's bigger there.
Similar.
But if you see it like in another more fancy way, it's. And I think this is okay. You see the symbol underneath is when it has an extra sound or something. I think I can't remember now. Yeah, those are like the vowel things.
Oh, like when you put it into that space.
Yeah,
Here, like you put the
that's it.
simple one.
I think it's for changing the sound. Or I would have to watch the videos again because it was like about a week ago that I was really trying to figure this stuff out.
No,
and I will.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like you're saying, it's about thinking. For me, it's a comprehension. I want to understand someone. My son, his mother. I want to understand her. I want her to be able to express her thoughts, her feelings. Because I think that in English, as English speakers, we take it for granted. People from other countries that speak English as a second language or a third language.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I really don't like that. I do that. Another thing, because I know in the thing that when we were talking about the differences in culture, it kind of goes into that for me. Like if I think I'm going to go there, visit someday, it's the same thing. Like I got to understand how they think. How am I representing myself? You know, one thing I thought was very interesting. There was somewhere on some website they were like, bring business cards and give out business cards everywhere you go. There's certain things that were like are cool, respectable, and I forget what she was. It's called sampai or something like that. But like when you see someone, to greet them, like you bow. You know, you put like a pray bow. But if it's like your elder, you get a bow really far. And you always have to do it. And I think, I don't remember if it's the elder. No, you are supposed to do it first. You don't let the older person do it first. When you're, and a big thing in this country too, and probably most Asian countries, the feet is dirty, you know. So you don't sit with your feet pointing at someone or showing them. It's got to be behind you. No touching the head or hair. Disrespectful. You know, this is a Buddhist country. Very interesting.
It is, yeah, and just little things like you could do that, and that makes all the difference when you're coming into someone's house, like you say.
Yeah, that's
so that you learn just the basics of signs of respect.
Or you know what, too? Just very quick, when interacting with monks or being in a temple, to not sit the same level as the monk, to be lower than them.
Sit lower down. And it's just little things, like, and it's one of those things like. It's voluntary. Obviously, I wouldn't want to force people or tell people you have to do it, but just to know, like, if you do things, doors will be open for you.
But that's the big thing,
right? Like, do it just for your own sake. Like,
they are so polite; they won't tell you or expect. Maybe they will think, "Oh, this person's uneducated or not nice," but they're not going to be so strict about it.
No. But if you can do it, if you can offer it on top of that, then I'm sure that it goes a long way into making friends.
And we don't know exactly, or especially when there's a difference between older people and younger people, generation gap.
Right, like your parents-in-law or like relatives of your wife that she's, you know, to meet them.
Not my wife, just
to be wife or something.
I don't know. I wouldn't even say that. This is
of your girlfriend in this case.
No, not my girlfriend. No. Just the mother of my child.
The mother of your children.
She's just my child, my friend only.
But just that if you want to meet her friends, that would go a long way. Again, just to showing that. Then all of a sudden you'll be accepted into the circle better. Yeah. Or if ever you want to make like business relationships, that's something. You know, if you know these things, wow, I'm sure you go a lot further into the business world. You know?
Well, for me, what she had said, talking about this last time when we were talking about it, because you know I have a temper, you too, you know, but in North America, the way that our temper is, it might be a little bit rude, but it's not like totally unexpected. But for them to have any kind of temper or to lose your cool in public is really bad. You know, that's my understanding of it. So there's a really big difference in culture. Same thing, like I guess, like in Japan. You know, like their sense of honor. All these Asian countries, like family. You know, like you dishonored the family.
and just everything you do. And that's, I've heard that otherwise, where it's like even if you insult someone, they won't show that. You know?
No, exactly.
Because for them, it's a sign of strength. If you see, exactly. Like, you don't want to be the one that flips out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just take it, and like even if it's your enemy, you can treat them. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a whole different way of living through life. And
I don't know if it was a samurai analogy or story or just a Buddhist one, but the guy, like, instead of fighting the guy, like the guy would, like the soldier wouldn't let him pass.
Mm-hmm.
He would let him like crawl underneath the guy or crawl under him.
Oh,
so
yeah.
the guy, like, you know, to be humble, would just crawl under instead of. It's very interesting, a different way about it. Like, and I like that non-violent, that there might be a different way. I like this too when we used to talk about morality, about someone would say, would you steal to feed your family? And then it would always be to me, well, what other ways can you do besides stealing? You know, something that would be in most places wrong. There might be, like, I wouldn't say be a prostitute, but I mean, you know, will you go out and panhandle? Will you? I mean, that's a big thing in Buddhism, to get alms, to get your food by going around and asking for it. You know, the monks back in the day, they used to do that to humble themselves.
Just to be humble, just to show that ultimate. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's something else when we're. I guess to Canada, we're very diverse. You know, if you go from the East Coast to all the way to Vancouver, and then, you know. Like for you, like Alberta and Nova Scotia, I find is similar, in the sense maybe we're really poor, but it's like that cowboy. We're farmers. We're, you know what I mean, working the land.
Sort of independent. Yeah, no, I see. And there is those, yeah, and it's funny to see. Like we start with language, but then you get to those cultural aspects really quick. Like they're linked to it. Like how just interacting, how words are said. Like you say, just. In identifying a woman versus a man, say, you know, that can really affect then other aspects of the culture.
Or when we were like talking about earlier, I'm not planning to marry anybody or ask anyone to marry me, but when looking at like engagement rings, and to think about, okay, what is it to spend thousands of dollars on a ring? Well, to men it's kind of stupid, or to spend like. You know, like $1,000 for a diamond, where the laboratory created one which might be more perfect, or, well, honestly, like a cubic zirconium, supposedly it's not as strong. On a hardness scale, diamond is like a 10, and that is more like a 7. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, like you're not taking a hammer or like, you know what I mean?
The problem with diamond rings isn't that they're breaking all the time. That's not the quality.
I would say it's my understanding. I have a friend I used to work with who was big on this. That there is a monopoly by the Bears, I think they're called, company. They're, you know, and so like I think it was in Siberia or Russia. Like they found like a buttload of diamonds, and like they go there and buy them all because they don't want the market flooded with cheaper diamonds.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah.
Or like we were talking about the gold, 24 karat pure gold. It's almost impossible to find in North America.
What it means, yeah.
And then they have what I was reading, a myth, because it's not as strong. It might scratch a little more easy.
Well, they've got to keep up like this sort of air of like a real diamond, a pure, like a natural diamond or something, because if it's about the beauty of it and how it sparkles,
exactly.
Like you say, well, the manufactured one might sparkle better. It might not have little like pieces of other things inside of it. And so it might actually refract like it's...
But then they say on the opposite end of that, that's how you spot a fake.
Is when it's not refracting. But if you can get something that...
Perfect.
Oh, it's too perfect. But if the idea is that you have this thing on your finger that sparkles like nothing else sparkles, well, that's a good thing. Now, if you have something that... And I know in Alberta they use diamonds, and it's not like the fancy diamonds, but they use diamonds on the drill bits.
Yeah, for sure.
To drill down into the earth. And that has to be diamonds because it has to be hard.
To be the hardest.
So the harder it is, the better. So in that industry, they would say, "Cubic zirconium, that's not hard enough, right?"
No, for sure.
That's where it's actually, in practice and purpose, necessary.
I know too much about jewelry now.
It's too much, right?
Like heat treating. There are some
precious
precious
for the
stones.
black diamond.
Well, also like there are some stones that just they don't really shine or look nice until they've been treated. I forget which ones it was. overall, just thinking about this in general, it's interesting for me because, you know, we wouldn't have a radio without quartz.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it's interesting to think about these things, minerals, rocks, gemstones. Maybe I'll go grab it if I can think where it is. I forget how old it is, but it's in the millions of years old.
Yeah.
My,
Well, you see that, like for me, that's in just terms of interest. It's way more valuable than some silly rock that De Boers gives me, right?
See that?
I remember seeing there was like something on
I
meteorites.
forget the name of it. That's what that is.
That's a cool looking
That is not from Earth.
And that's cool. Like that should be the most valuable things on Earth, right?
Well, to get a big chunk of that is very expensive, but I don't think that is expensive.
It's like a 1 carat, no, or a half carat size diamond or something. I don't know what carat
No,
means.
I think that.
But it's huge, right? There can't be that, like in terms of
I'm trying to
tons.
forget what it's called. Meteorite.
I mean, there's got to be more massive diamonds on the Earth than meteorites, no? Like if you actually added up all the massive diamonds.
Now, see, this is the thing.
No.
A diamond is produced biologically over millions of years.
Yeah.
But this, as far as I know, is like a million years. Let me see what it's called. I forget. I used to be really into collecting rocks and gemstones and stuff like that. You're right.
No, but they're
Glass.
But you know what I mean, though? Like if you could, in just terms of rarity, if there's like 1 million pounds of diamonds on Earth. Moldavite. Okay.
Look at the bigger pieces. And here, look, it's actually from a certain place, like Czech Republic. There's only like a place you can really get it.
And it's a certain
Germany.
gem,
Impact in southern Germany. Now, let me see, because if I'm right about the age of it. Because as far as I know, it's supposed to be, here, Earth scientists, they think it's formed about 14.7 million years ago. That little piece of glass. And that's glass. I love it. I love it. And you see how when it was liquid, it hit the ground. And you can see like the texture. I'm going to go pretty close to the camera.
Yeah, no, it's a cool thing. No, and that's cool. Like for me, that's way cooler than a diamond, honestly. That's why I'm Mr. Shusho on the diamonds. But also, like you say, it's a guy thing. What do we see the value?
And when you get large pieces of that, but even so, that little piece was only $15. I know only.
So, for a little piece of rock, right? But no, I just in my mind, I don't know. But like I said before, if a certain nice lady she wants a diamond.
Yeah,
I guess I'm getting
it's
that, right? Like
it's a commitment, and
if that's what she likes, I might not see the value on it, but that's the kind of seeing the other's perspective.
If you're asking someone you really care about, like what kind of ring do you like?
Yeah.
And 14 karat, 18 karat, right? Because that's all you see when you're looking. And then she's like, I want 24 karat. And then like, oh my God, what is that? I didn't even know. Like, okay, it goes that high. What's that mean? And then I look up and it's like 24 karat, pure gold.
Pure,
yeah.
100% pure.
Supposedly, if it's thicker, it's not supposed to be so brittle or whatever. Like back in the day, like when they make things out of gold, it will be passed down to the family.
It could break or something?
No, it'll be passed down to the family. It's something that's held.
India, in terms of inheritance.
They keep saying India a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. I want to find one of the bigger piece. I guess I could buy it now.
No, but it's a cool thing. If only she would be into that. If she could be into meteors. How big a meteorite do you want on your ring, baby?
My ex-girlfriend, she had bought me a fossilized tree.
Yeah.
And it was like you cut a tree stump in half, or like a slice of it, like an inch thick.
Yeah.
But it was rock. Like and you could see
the rings. Do you know, I heard
really nice.
There was one of these guys, some of these guys, they're trying to prove that fossilization could be done quickly, right? And it's a silly kind of thing they're doing, but what they did was they fossilized teddy bears. And it was just a way of like, I don't know what they do, they calcify it really quickly or something, and like, you can make a little rock teddy bear.
Well, I can understand, but when we look at Mount Vesuvia, or whatever it is called, where...
But it's an artificial petrification process, but then you can buy these little teddy bears for like $5, and they look kind of fuzzy, but they've been petrified into rock, and it's just like really cool things. Anyways,
Mount Vesuvius. You must have seen that before. Have you seen that? Basically, okay, what happened was...
Is that recent?
No.
I don't know.
I think that's the one there.
Yeah.
That one or another one. Mount Vesuvius.
I'll
look it up. But basically, I'll find which one it is. I don't know if it's this one or not. But there was a Roman city there. Like the time of Jesus or less than 100 years. And when the volcano erupted, the people were like out in the streets trying to run away. The ash that came and fell on them so quickly, it buried them alive, but it was so hot that their bodies kind of burned up. But what was left was actual an empty cavity, what they would fill with plaster. I'm gonna show you.
And you could like see the people almost like running away.
Yeah, man. So it's not necessarily was it Pompeii?
Something like this.
I forget the name of it.
I remember hearing some of these
Pompeii.
stories
I think
where
it
the
is
people are
Pompeii.
like just like frozen in status, like they just didn't
Pompeii,
have time.
that's it. Pompeii bodies,
system.
yeah. I'm thinking like that.
Crazy, right?
It's really crazy. I think this is from like they have ones where they are laying under the docks, like trying to get a boat, and it's like a father and a daughter and the two little kids, and it's like, wow, it makes me really cry, man.
Absolutely. Like you see some in it are just in like,
how crazy is this? I mean, it really adds something to it too. You know what it adds to it to me? Like obviously there's no really facial features, but he's in like a real like pose.
Yeah.
Like he's really, it's not just like he's laying dead on the ground. Like
that's it.
Yeah, check it out sometime. It's really interesting because when they found it,
I've heard, like you say that, but maybe there is other cases because I'm sure I've heard another name in Pompeii too where they found like, again, like just real flash.
bam, like here, the little kids, man.
Oh, that just kills me.
But this isn't the one that I'm thinking of. This image of a man preserved at Pompeii.
There's somewhere it's like, different ones like the mother with the kid in her arms and
I
stuff.
don't think that must be a fake.
I think that.
Yeah, it's a meme. They're all dead and the woman killed them. It's crazy. It is frightening to think about this too, huh? To think about this, especially I don't see any here, but I've seen where they really are. I think some of them standing in the street.
Yeah. I'm sure there's like.
If Pompeii happened today, it's a very graphic picture of someone doing something obscene with holding a selfie stick. And
oh gosh, okay. I was trying to get like, which organs are? Okay, yeah, that one's
like that. There you go. Look at that, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's like all curled up, like looks like he's praying almost. Please save me.
Oh,
and then he's burned to death.
Because it had to happen like just like that, like
the
heat and the ash, everything just. That's what I've heard is that it had to be like there's really heavy ash that comes in and just like.
And it's so hot that it kind of melts the body away and leaves a hole. Yeah, I will. Let's see how close I can get my little piece. People, they won't really see it. I wish they could see it.
It was zooming really well before.
Yeah, but I could do it. I could do it with the thingamajigger, but I won't. If you could actually feel it and touch it, you would see it's pitted, like it's got a texture to it. They can kind of see that it's transparent stuff.
Yeah. No, that's crazy.
I don't think I have any other gemstones. I used to collect a lot of them. It was something that I liked. And then I will get the picture of that guy. That guy there. Oh, maybe that's fake. Because they're trying to say like it's a guy taking a dump. Well, he got... Yeah,
no, but I come up with some other ones that they're like that one, but...
Got too many tabs open.
Wow.
I should have this. This is because we're just kind of doing it on the go. Normally I would have these kind of things loaded up.
Well, yeah, and we get going in different directions. This is where...
that's the fun stuff. That one too. That's pretty... You can see the two people crawled up on the other side and this guy here, and it's like their last moments. Yeah, well, yeah, because fossils, gemstones, Jewelry.
That's where we got to. I was trying to. How did
Jewelry.
we get there again? That's right. Exactly. Diamonds to
The perfect cut
phosphorus
of the diamond. Oh, wait. And that was, again, I was saying earlier. How much did you spend? 3 months' salary.
That's crazy.
And how long will it take to save up 3 months' salary? Because obviously, in 1 month's salary, you gotta, kind of. Normally, you have it already budgeted out.
Well, and that's it. And I think that salary has gotten something different from the time. Like that's got to be from the 50s or something. The 3 month salary thing.
I think the thing.
Whereas now people say it's like 40% of the average household is just on the house, just on rent. Like 40% of the average salary.
Yeah. It's supposed to be, I think, 30% to have a proper budget.
Proper thing. But then imagine like 3 months out of a whole year is 25% of your budget, right? Of that year is 25, like 3 months out of the whole year. And so then basically what you're leaving yourself with, like you say, you've already budgeted out the rest normally. Mm-hmm. So, no, 3 months, I don't know. I just ask her what she wants, yeah.
Oh, that's what
it sounds like she might want 3 months in this case, but...
well, I think that, like I was reading on some sites, like the average is like $6,000, $6,000 for a ring.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
And for me, it's like... Okay, so for instance, I want, use my mind for making money. Mm-hmm. Now for day trading stocks or cryptocurrency is big right now. But for to make a living, like let's say $100 American a day, you need for day trading at least $5,000 to invest in and play with.
Oh yeah, to be pulling out 100 a day, and that's on good days.
So that's why for me, like, it's a. Or, this is another thing too, why they in other countries they prefer 24 karat pure, because again, that is an investment. When people invest, they invest in precious minerals and silver right now, as far as my understanding, is better to buy if you're looking for a commodity.
Well, these days it's like if you're thinking about market times, like if the market's going badly, it's time to buy commodities. Commodities go up when so like gold and silver, these things. I don't know.
It's not like oil.
No.
But you think oil is from plants? Where you're coming from, where you used to live. I've heard like rumors that maybe that the planet itself actually makes oil, because we're talking about fossils and we're talking about diamonds and stuff like that.
No, I don't know. From what it sounded like I had an uncle. He was a geologist, and they would always look down through these layers, and it would always pop up in places where. Again, there used to be a lot of vegetation,
Yeah, that makes sense.
If it was like the sort of, I don't know, and I don't know all about it, but it sounded like it was just like smashed together plants.
Yeah,
but
I know they found water too now, though. There's like an ocean down there.
Awesome. No, if it could be that it was remade, but no, I think
it really depends on the makeup, and it does seem organic.
I don't know. It's outside of my field.
Maybe I should grab my organic chemistry textbook.
Oh my goodness. You got me into like linguistics earlier, going through, what do we call them again? Oh yeah, morpheme ratios. My mind is like...
Now, a lot of my friends and family might think all my books are religion or something, but they're not.
Study guide to organic chemistry.
Yeah. Well,
we're going to learn.
It's probably old, but I mean, I think it's in the 90s, 94. Yeah, because like polymers, isomers, the bonding of, is it a solvent, blah, 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 blah.
Got any math textbooks?
That's probably the only one that I don't have.
Oh, no, I need some.
Psychology.
I have this book. I think we talked about that before.
I almost got another copy too.
I don't know if it's the same version. No, it's not.
I almost got another copy, but a different edition, yeah.
I think mine might be the third edition.
It's like my world religions book. Here, look, see?
Microbiology.
It's the same book, but just different editions. Okay, and I was like, I went home and I'm like, I already have it. Oh,
I see it too. Like just how they printed it differently, Western traditions.
Alkalines, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, alcohols, diols, ethers. I think it would be in there. Ethers now.
I got a C in chemistry.
Chapter 12. I liked it, but I just never really stuck with it. Chapter 12 is 242.
I was terrible. And I didn't stick with it.
Mind you, everything in this book is organic chemistry.
Oh, this is ridiculous. Give me like nightmares back to this class. Oh my goodness, this is way beyond what I got to. Little dots and negative signs. And
H3. CH3, and then remember that they only can come together because of their amount of electrons and protons and all that stuff. With zinc chloride and concentrated hydrochloric acid, we have reaction conditions that allow for ionization. Yeah, I really liked it, but
well, that's where the questions come in. Like when they talk about like how plasms and proteins can come together to make nucleotides, can come together to make these
ketones. Now this is everybody's talking about ketogenic diet.
Oh, we the keto a lot. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah,
well, but when they talk about, when they talk like, and these debates get way over my head really quick, even with any of the evolution stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then they talk about the abiogenesis.
Mm-hmm.
Like what it had.
Yeah,
I don't have to happen beforehand. This is where the scientists say it happens in, right? In this kind of this textbook.
I put a lot of, I read a couple books, specifically about creation and stuff like that. I'm not a creationist, but when it comes down to these kind of things, every experiment that has been done like this on these kind of things to where did the first molecules come from, they've been really rigged. I guess that's the best way. Yeah. They really had to rig it to a point that it wasn't like the natural conditions. So
and just how to prove it, but even just how to theorize it. Like, I just like the theory of it.
Again,
the application.
I don't think. I'll just be honest. Yeah. I don't think that it can happen. They have not found a way that it can happen naturally. And then this is only for the first like biological type of. But when you come to protein folding is another different story altogether. Before you even get to DNA and chromosomes. Which book is it? I think it would be. I have a couple books on it.
You lost it.
Yeah, well, because proteins, like the building blocks of like DNA and shit like that. It's a similar premise of like they only like this one can only fold like this, right? For whatever reason. So for it to connect to the one that it can only fold like this, and then like there's specific spots they can only fold, and there's specific spots that they can only join together. I'm trying to think.
These are one of the things that's always been over my head. So like whichever way it works, it's freaking amazing.
Watch your head there. Yeah. There's The Language of God there by Francis Collins. That first one, yeah. You want to grab that?
Grab that one.
And then there's the orange one, the Case for the Creator. I think might be in one of those. This one here, and this is where I. In my life, in the circle of people in my life, there are some people who, their belief system is not something that I would say I agree with, especially what I'm trying to say is there are some people who think religious people, especially Christians, that we're dumb and we're stupid and we don't understand. This book is by Francis Collins, and he was the head of the Human Genome Project. Mm-hmm. Obama got him to be his national whatever, I don't remember. But it's just kind of ridiculous. Yeah, here, Francis Collins. This is one of the most intelligent persons in the world, and this is hardcore stuff.
And this would be along the lines, like, this is where you get into this sort of, like, the God is present, but he fully describes the whole evolutionary process.
Yeah, the fingerprints.
I don't even know what, he might even think about abiogenesis, but he's always got the kind of the
he's going to tell you,
God somewhere.
He's going to tell you more than likely, because I would say it's not necessarily his field. He's a geneticist, okay? You know what I mean?
That's it.
But even now we're starting to see where people, an atheist might see junk DNA, we're starting to see. And I used to be what we would call I believed in what we call irreducible complexity. I used to be in what do you call that? Like I didn't believe in like 5,000-year-old Earth. I believe that there was a designer. God designed life. Mm-hmm. I don't really anymore. I think maybe it's possible that he guided it, but I'm a creationary evolutionist. I believe God used genetics and evolution in that way for life to unfold. He so knows so much, especially existing outside of the reality, that he can, from the beginning moment of time, and that's what we call the teleological argument, where he fine-tuned just the universe at the moment of creation, not only for life, but for matter to actually come together. And, every variable, supercomputer, every variable
And just pre-planned, even pre-planned, like
Pre-planned,
free will, and that's
and
where,
eternity past.
like, that's where I can get into, like, and we've come to that before, where I can get up to that point quite easily to the kind of, as you called it, like the pantheistic point of view, and then within that, everything works for me.
Yeah, I was
you know,
thinking
and then
that.
so I don't even need someone there with the little. Whatever it is to create life. It's like, no, that is perfectly within the realm of someone putting, a spark at the beginning and then just letting things go.
I think the problem, like for me, when
like
I
it's not contradictory, is what I'm saying. For me, now I understand for other people, it's just like contradictory. Evolution might be contradictory, but not for everyone, right?
Well, the problem is, like I said,
is
for me, we have ego. We want to start from us and work up.
That's it. Yeah,
and it doesn't make any sense to, especially knowing that time and space have a beginning, that there is a supernatural cause of the universe.
Yeah.
Before nature existed, nature was created. So for me, it's like, it makes more sense. It's not that out of nothing, I don't know, out of nothing came something, but for me, it's out of nothing a mind developed. I don't know. I think it's more that, or minds.
Yeah.
I think it's more reasonable for me that one mind developed first and brought forth more minds than many minds. But maybe that's just me.
No, but I get... Yeah, there's that...
In a mathematical, it's like... all of life is like this. Cells divide into more. It's not that many come together. I mean, sometimes that might happen, but when we look at everything and evolution, it's, from species dividing and going out in other directions. It's not...
No, and then that's where
Stephen Meyer
gets into that.
See, I'm not into irreducible complexity anymore. It's like looking at a system like the eye, and again, I don't agree with this anymore, but like there's 7, 8, 9 components of the eye, and if one isn't working, then the whole eye doesn't work, and it's hard for it to evolve up to that point. But it could be parts that had different functions and used in other systems that come together.
Yeah, but, and I heard that one too. It's like, but a half an eye isn't very useful. It's like, well, half an eye is about half as useful as an eye. And they talk about like light sensitive skin patches and stuff.
The first
I've heard that one before too, and that one really caught me up. It's like, well, how do you get to this complexity? Whereas there are people that attempt at least to explain it, right?
Well, the problem is
satisfies.
And like when you're looking at this book here, for instance, DNA is information. There's nowhere in all of our reality have we seen information come from non-information. Or like we're reading books, it's information compiled and collected. DNA is information being copied by itself. This is the thing too. It's really, DNA is way more complex than any of us understand. And it's a.
That I can fully. I'm on board with.
I would maybe another time.
But how it comes about,
we can get into. I want to really have a discussion sometime about epigenetics, because our genetics and our DNA can be changed by external environmental factors.
Yeah.
DNA itself is self-replicating, and we were talking about oral translations before we got on here.
Yeah.
Now, oral translations, when you're in a community, and again, too, we have more than one person, it's self-correcting, it's auto-correcting.
Right.
I hear you say it, you repeat it to someone else. Hey, wait, you did it wrong.
That's it.
And then you have 2 or 3 other people come and tell you how to say it right. DNA is the same way. It repairs cells, it repairs itself. It's a copying system.
Okay.
But there is external factors. And this is a whole new field, the epigenetics, because we're looking at diet and things like pollution, where our DNA is getting damaged or corrupted. But it can be repaired, it can be fixed. We can change those environmental factors, and it's a big thing, because our body, as a religious person, at the time of Noah or after Adam. If you look, because in the Bible, genealogies are very important. Knowing that Jesus came from the family line of David is very important. And this is another thing too, way different topic, but there's what's called the Nephilim in the Bible, or giants and things like that. And we have like the genealogy from Noah's time, right? Why is that important to those people? But they were living 5, 6, 7, 800 years. I think, if I understand correctly, in China, they have, their ancient traditions and stories where 200-300-year-old people. I think, we're getting there. We're getting there with stem cell research, things like that. So,
but just to have the environmental, because that's, and we know the different environmental factors can
see it.
help us, and then again, generation over generation, how different things affect that.
It was really interesting because I personally believe in the end times that quote unquote aliens will come, okay? But I don't think there'll be aliens. I think there will be fallen angels, because what my understanding is, these fallen angels, like I was listening to a lecture professor, angels always came and had bodies. They would come and eat and drink. They were like people, right? But the fallen angels, they were killed. So a body was needed for them. And this is my understanding, that especially if I go to my way back to my past New Age, where I believed in Atlantis and things like that, they explained it that's where that genetic manipulation came from. This is where we get minotaurs and ancient Greek mythology. Because what they're doing was, there's a human body is made for a human soul. The bird body is made for a bird soul. The pig body, pig soul. The angel soul is meant for an angel body. But God ain't giving them an angel body anymore. So what are they trying to do? To make something unnatural. And then if you, regardless of the religion, demons and such, what are they trying to do? They're trying to possess someone. They want to have a body, they want to, and so this is my understanding, especially they call them, like I say, the Nephilim, the giants. And what they were trying to explain was, back from the time of Noah, specifically, that's when they said this happened. And this is also like Edward Casey or a lot of mystical type of nonsense. But they would say that the genetic manipulation at that time to allow people to come in, it was corrupted. And that's why we get to the time of Abraham. They would say they're going to Canaan, they're going to that country, right? God's telling them to wipe out every man, woman, and child, because those are the genealogy from the time of the flood that he didn't get to actually wipe out. The fallen angel bodies, maybe that were more perfected. They weren't so much animalistic, but they still were like giants or. So it's really interesting but at the end of the day, it's like, why do we need, especially in Matthew, you're going to see, I think it's Matthew, starting all these genealogies. Like, it's like pages of just this person begot this person, and this person had 10 sons and begot this person and this person. It's important to them. Another thing, Cain and Abel. So I think it's Cain's son, I think it's Seth, something like that. Anyways, Cain, the children that he had, they have godly names. So there's a lot of misinformation. A real scholar, a real historian, or a biblical scholar is different than just or a Christian scientist. He's the head of the Human Genome Project. We're not all stupid Bible bangers, And it's really interesting because the premise is that we think that Cain was cursed. He was, but it didn't pass down all the way. He still believed in God. Like after he kind of, you know what I mean? He wouldn't name his children good godly names, put the name of God in, you know what I mean? I just love studying and learning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then all the way down. Now you get back up to those first generations. That's when it gets a little bit more, like for me, the Bible's got to get a little bit more parable in order to accept it, right? Like basically there was just a couple of boys and girls there, brothers and sisters. And then all other humanity had to come from them. Well, or even just coming after Noah, you know what I mean?
It's that's the thing that
those are the parts where it's like, well, geneticists would say that would be probably a pretty bad idea, you know what I mean?
Yes and no. And that's like when I became, instead of being a creationist or intelligent design, that's the word I was looking for earlier. Instead of being someone who believes in intelligent design and went to evolutionary, it was understanding like, for like we have different races, when they split apart, what was the minimum population level? And you're right, it has to be a set amount. But when we're reading from here, and my understanding too is, it's not necessarily how it appears here. Like it might seem like it's only one or two people doing this or that, but it's not. We're talking sometimes a whole family.
And that's where we can gain the lessons from these things, like you say, just about different kind of. We linked it with mental illness earlier. You remember the last time we were talking about, and how that can get passed down from generation to
be
generation.
careful with that, because there are some alt-right people that will say that. It was something I was reading about different cultures where the culture is more strict sexually, and it was the husband and the wife, like they're married for a few years but still young, and they went to the doctor, why are we not having a baby? And so the doctor checked them out and everything, and they were virgins. They never had sex. They didn't know how to have a baby. Another one, I don't even want to even say about it because it's mean, but it was about one culture where they were putting the seed in the wrong spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they weren't really told where it was supposed to go. And this was in a country where...
I saw some comedy on that. It was like, no, why would you put it there? That's where I do my pee-pee from.
No.
Wait, what? And
no, but
they're making fun of a couple.
But it was, if I remember correctly, it was because it was a country where America went and had armed forces there.
Yeah.
And they were really worried that there was some kind of biological warfare. Because the population was going down, and it's just ignorance breeds ignorance. I guess.
Indeed.
Cain versus Abel. Yeah, but again.
But after that, like we get back to the actual the importance.
But this was the big thing that I was listening to, because we have what's called extra biblical sources. So the Book of Enoch is a really important one, and it's quoted by people like in the New Testament. And we see here that I don't think it's referring to Enoch, the son of Cain.
But I've heard some ones on that one.
Oh yeah,
It's non-canonical, but then this Book of Enoch, some people just like ridiculous
Enoch.
it.
No, it's a good book. And here, like I said, Seth.
But I think some of it,
Seth, the son of Cain, yeah. And so they're saying that when they're going down, and this is why, because they say Enoch lived 90 years and begot Canaan. But this is important because some of the names are nations. So it's important to understand that it's not necessarily that it's,
which is just a really interesting way of passing down oral tradition, right? To teach lessons. It's like this country came from these two countries, and this was the original. It's like a really fascinating way of reading it. It was like there was. Oh, I didn't get to the end. There was this. Aboriginal oral traditions, and they were talking about these gigantic beavers, like the animals that and they'd had these in these oral traditions, and then finally, in kind of where this language had been developed, they find these archaeological records of these enormous beavers that used to live in Canada before before the back in the times when I guess mammoths were hanging around, or different kind of large animals. And so it was in the oral tradition. Before we found it out, they were basically telling stories about these giant.
Well, this is the same thing in the native. Some of the native traditions, they have the same Nephilim. They have giants. Yeah. They have giants. So we're going to like King David fighting Goliath.
Sure, yeah.
And this is supposedly, from some sort of genetic manipulation for these fallen angels to come. And it's very interesting today because if you read anything about Antarctica, in the I don't know, I think it was in the Book of Enoch, but they're talking about when God punished the fallen angels, or some of them, he put them to Tartarus. It's a place in Greek mythology, and they were saying it is from heaven to earth, the distance. Tartarus is that distance from hell down. It's so far down. It's a really bad place, And I just find that so. I don't even know where I was going with it. It's just something different, man.
But I remember hearing some stuff about that. And there was just some people just talking about hell. Hell is actually just a place for fallen angels.
Well, yeah.
And some people say
there
that
is
goes all the way down there.
Even Christians, they don't know. Biblically speaking, there's no one in hell. The devil's not in hell. Yeah. The devil right now is in heaven.
You're saying around, yeah.
There's more than one level of heaven.
I've heard and because hell was one that really bugged me for a while. Now we're getting way off track, but it was like but then reading into it, it was just like, wow,
No,
wait.
nobody is in hell. And first off, in
Even
the
go back to the Jewish people. It would like
no.
there's like it starts off. There's not even
In the
a
New
hell. It's just,
Testament,
like,
I think
some
there's
stuff.
2 or 3 words for hell.
Yeah.
One of them is a pit that they use outside of Jerusalem. There was like a garbage pit where they would burn bodies and stuff like that. And Jesus would talk about it,
Yeah.
and literally he would even describe it. You're going to go to a place like that hell,
yeah.
like that hell. But he used a different word, and he's really talking about literally that hole outside the city where
The burning pit.
where there's worms crawling through the bodies. And then the other one I think was for Hades or something like that.
Yeah.
But hell in the biblical term, the place for the devil is not filled yet. There's nobody in hell because it's not until the final judgment. Hell is written more about in like Revelation. Now Jesus does talk a lot about hell. But he's talking about the future. You're gonna end up in this place. You're gonna go to this place. It's misconstrued that it's gonna be right after you die. Because remember, the Jewish traditions is that they're gonna be resurrected.
Yeah.
And at the end time.
Yeah.
It's not, and that's why like the body, keeping the body preserved, or or at least keeping it, and I think this is lost on a lot of Christians, that we're waiting for the final judgment. Like when the time of judgment comes, and then everybody is judged. That's when you'll be sent where you're going.
And I've heard, and just like where you get, like, and again, how we can know what's coming up. But just that there was other ones that would talk about it as like hell is just like the absence of good. It's just like the eternal separation,
absence of God itself,
annihilationists or something, annihilists.
Yeah, well, this is
like these ones that say actually hell is just you really do blink out of existence. You could have an eternity of heaven, hell is
I
just
don't think it's
eternal
out of
separation.
But I think, well, yeah, that's
you know what I mean.
Well, that's another reason why.
But it wasn't me who thinks that. It was just like, wow, I didn't know that was even a school of thought.
In Christian theology, when Jesus died on the cross, or before he died on the cross, but he said, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" You have to understand, in our theology, what did he do? He took on the sin of everyone, which brought him to that point of hell. To and remember, this is someone who is the eternal Son of God, who is God, but in the flesh man person, when he's on the spiritual side, he is, because it's a spiritual death, right? This is spiritual separation. It's never gone through that, So
like 3 days, you mean?
No. On
Jesus
the cross,
was down in hell.
No.
Oh no, just in that moment.
On the cross, when he said,
okay.
"Why are you forsaking me?" Because he's taking on all of our sin, all of our shame, all of our everything, which is the eternal, or hell. That's what hell is. Complete separation from God spiritually.
Like for him, that was the moment to hell. This is when he's
forsaken. It's not the moment of hell, but
for Jesus, I guess. No, I'm just trying to understand.
I would say that it would be the most extreme hell,
for
because
him, yeah.
it has to be only for him.
Yeah.
Because no one else but God could take on the sin of everyone and be completely disconnected. Now, look, why there's a minimum of two persons in the Godhead. Why we believe in one God, but there's three. God is love, but to love, you need at least two people. So this is why in eternity past, that's before creation, that's why there's a minimum of two persons, a Father and the Son. Or so this is why one aspect can empty out his eternal parts, empty out the parts that cannot come here and be a person, to take on the spiritual sin and to be completely separated to the point that I don't think anybody else could. So that's why, he was separated from God spiritually completely, and that's why he said, "Why have you forsaken me?" And it's kind of like you were just saying, hell is separation. But it's supposed to be by choice too. This is the thing, and this is where we get into reprobates and God knowing who can and cannot be saved. And because for me, it's kind of like such a pride or arrogance or anger that they can't get out of it. It's such a cycle that they can't break it at all. And that's kind of where I like Calvinism in a sense. I'm not going to say I am a Calvinist, but to say that you cannot get out of that cycle, and it's only God who can fix you to give you back your free will or to give you free will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you're just so angry and you just keep choosing hate and anger, you just keep going down and down.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that, you know, because the Bible will say, like Satan, the father of lies, like he can't be saved. He ain't gonna be saved, no matter how much forgiveness is offered to him. You know, we're told that, you know, there's a prayer that I did that my pastor gave me, and it's like God's continually offered love and forgiveness every single time. What does it take for a person,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's an angel or, you know, what does it take for them to completely reject that? Always.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But we're told to be wary, because if there is something like that exists, or a person exists like that, there's real evil in the world for me. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen and heard some bad stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was naive for a long time to think that there wasn't. But there are people that will do things for themselves to such an
Oh,
extent.
yeah.
And the what
Selfish.
but
Yeah.
with intent and fully knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, I think this is good. No, it's like, I know this is bad, and I'm going to do this against you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that too, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good word for it.
it's just very unfortunate. Like someone would do that, like just fully knowing, fully conscious of it, and that's just like, just don't give a shit anymore.
Don't give a shit anymore.
No.
Yeah, and I guess that's it. I mean, it's one thing to be in sorrow. You could get there too, but to not give a shit with anger. I suppose
Yeah.
you know why? It makes them feel good. In the short-term moment, anger and destruction and revenge makes them feel good. I guess that's where I would come to it at. Now, I wouldn't say for the angels. I assume and understand they have like emotion or feeling maybe, but like for people, we're made in the image of God. Especially, you know, we're able to feel jealousy. We're able to feel anger, but it also can be an unbalanced level where we get stuck in it. So that's where I would think maybe it's just that aspect of free will that.
Yeah, and that one always got me. Like someone brought that up too. Like even just with the devil and the angels, those that absolutely know, like they've had just perfect revelation. They've just been standing there in front of him. Do they have free will, or is that something that
I think that they're not supposed
your
to.
Calvinist thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the devil, despite knowing full of everything, he chooses that, or did he? Or then he doesn't choose it. And
I always
that's
thought
just
that
his
they didn't,
role.
you know?
It's almost like that's his job. It was. I don't know if you ever saw the show Lucifer. Did you ever
No,
see
I didn't watch
episode?
that. I saw.
It's a
clips of
bit
it.
silly. It's basically just like the devil kind of he gets to live on Earth for a while, and it goes through a little bit of the psychology of like the father-son thing. Like it's his dad that kicked him out, but actually no, it was supposed to be an honorable job. Like he has to take care of this thing.
Well, this is it.
Rather than it being like he's kind of a reject, but he's kind of like that's his role. You know what I mean? And it was a weird thing. Anyways, it got around all this free will Calvinism stuff, I think. But it was just like, what kind of beings, like you say, when you say it just now, it was like they're not made the same way in the.
Well, I will go to the book of Job, because the quote unquote evolution of Satan is different. Because Lucifer is like the shining star of heaven, like he's the best angel. He's the best at the time of God's creation. And so here, I don't know. Do you know Job? Job is like a really cool guy. He's, you know, has everything going for him. His family, his business, everything is
This is
good.
the whole Sodom and Gomorrah.
No. This is okay. Look.
The book of Job and not the
Job. He's like a guy who he has his family, he has his businesses, he's doing really good. All his life is really great, and he loves God and he follows God all the way, right? Then Satan comes to God and says, "Hey, you think and you say he loves you and he's going to follow you, but what happens if, you know, his life goes to crap? Will he still love you? Will he still follow you?"
And they start giving him like diseases and
so this is what because this is what Satan was. This is his role in heaven. I think, as far as I would understand, this would be before the fall. While he's an angel still, but I could be wrong. I would have to ask about that. But Satan attacks Job's character. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where do you come?" So Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro on earth." and from walking back and forth on it. You know, so it's really interesting, man, because this is, for Christians, we look at this in times of suffering. Because all his family was killed and destroyed in his whole life, but he never stopped believing. And then God restored to him and gave him more in the end. But here, so then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil. And when we say fear God, it's in the sense that we're an ant and God is a big person. Like we respect him, we know that he's so awesome. Like to look onto God, you know, he can't come here. Like when Moses went up, you know, the Mount Sinai, is it? When he went up there, you know, like God, if he just shows one little hair of his head, you know, it's gonna burn us and melt us. It's just so amazing. So we kind of have a fear, or we have a respect, a reverence of him. So Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? It's very interesting. You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. But God, he doesn't. He says, you go, I'll let you do what you want to do, you know? And the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person. Don't actually kill him or hurt him, but everything that he has, you can do what you want with it. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. I wish I had my Logos Bible software open, because it will go through it, maybe a different translation, open up the commentaries, because they're gonna go deep into the words, the names, the, you know, in a level that I'm aware of, but it didn't seep into my brain yet. Especially like who is he here? Oh, here we do have some
commentaries on it.
Yeah. Because this is when
because
Satan
that
was
was
different.
Yeah, and as you go through it, that story does ring a bell. And
Here, Satan the accuser, you know, because he evolved. You know, it was before he's a liar, he's the accuser. He's the one, you know, like is he really good? Or the tester, the one who tests the people. Well, the book of Job teaches us much about human suffering. We also learn a great deal about Satan and his relationship to God. The first 2 chapters of Job demonstrate that although Satan is in rebellion, he is still accountable to God. Originally an angel of God, Satan became corrupt through his own pride. Ever since his rebellion against God, Satan has been God's enemy as well as ours. So the word Satan in Hebrew is adversary. In the story of Job, Satan remained true in his name by accusing Job and afflicting him with all kinds of suffering. It's really interesting. I like these things, or especially, like I said, looking to the extra biblical sources to really get the context, the culture. There was something here that was rebellion. There's something else that jumped in my mind, but it's corruption, pride. Yeah, I was talking about that before. Pride, I didn't understand, but it's not like arrogance. It's just doing things on your own without God's help, or doubting that God can do it, or maybe that God will doubt, or doubting that God will do it for you. Because for us, and this goes to philosophy too, the first lie or first what Satan does, and this is also very spiritual warfare. It's not necessarily that he lies outright, but he gets you to question what God has said. Like Eve. So what did he? Oh, if you eat the apple, God said that you will. What was it? You will certainly die. But is that true? What does he mean by you will certainly die? You know, they gained the knowledge of good and evil. That's the main thing. When they gain the knowledge of good and evil, everything changes from there. That's when we can feel sad. We can feel, you know, because there's some things that I was studying like in the summertime, and I feel unfortunate to forget where I'm going with this, because it's a big aspect of free will.
Well, that's what I've understood too. Like that was kind of the moment that free will was instilled too.
Yeah.
Which caught me as well. It's like, wait, so it wasn't free will when before that? You know what I mean? Like there wasn't free will to choose or not to choose to eat an apple.
But I think that
And that one got me. And I'm sure there's.
I think the difference though is too
Yeah.
at that point though, everything was perfect.
Mhm.
And so it's like, if everything is perfect, what else would you choose anyways?
But just choosing, just in the sense of having to choose something, that's the free will. Like if I could go left or right, but before they knew anything, it was just go left.
No, I think like
And so it was like
by having the knowledge, I think they had free will, but they didn't have the knowledge of having free will, and that's what kind of changed it.
When Frank, we were talking one time, and it was like, wait, so basically, original sin gave us free will. It gave us life and death too.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it was that.
Will before that.
I think we had free will, but everything is perfect, so there isn't really a choice when everything is perfect. You're not going to choose bad things.
That's it.
But when he tricks them into knowing they have free will and knowing good, right from wrong, especially because then you have things like guilt and shame. What's the first thing they did? They covered themselves because now they know they're naked. Before, it doesn't matter.
Like if we don't know right from wrong,
but there's only perfect.
We don't know that.
But there's only perfectness.
That's it. And so we don't know right from wrong. So how do we know that eating the apple will be wrong? You know what I mean?
You won't. God told them. That's the thing. God told them don't do that. You can do everything is perfect. Do everything. Just don't eat that. You know, and it more than likely is an analogy. Anyways.
It's got to be an analogy because otherwise, and it would be kind of like a I don't know, like I'm using it as an analogy, sort of as evolution comes up. Like there's this point when speciation
becomes
occurs,
conscious,
right? And there could be that point. It was just like, okay, before
self-awareness.
That, self-awareness comes about, exactly,
consciousness.
and that's what we're talking about. And with that self-awareness comes the evils that we do today. Like you say, as an analogy,
it comes back to me. I find very interesting because when we first started podcasting, there was so much talk on objective truth, objective moral truth as well.
Yeah.
Because now we're actually coming around to it to see that, you know, there's so much based on objective truth, even to the point of objective moral truth. You know, that in a way that it almost does bring in free will. I don't think that it brings in free will. Again, I'm in the middle with free will.
You're still there, eh?
I'm still... Well,
Calvinism stuff.
It's... Like I say...
It's a messed up way. It is
I think it's possible that we can be broken because now we're now everything is not perfect and things can be broken to an extent that you have no free will. Because I would say that before they had the apple, they still had free will. They just weren't aware of it. Because that's in perfection. That's how it should be, right? They choose to be in the garden with God. I'm pretty sure God would let them, because he let them eat the apple, so he would let them not walk with them. It's another thing I like about that too. God walks with them. You know, this is where it's foreshadowing Christ in many ways for me, you know. And we see that with, you were saying earlier, you mentioned Sodom and Gomorrah. It says, it refers to God in heaven and God on the earth with Abraham, you know. Overlooking. There's a word, I forget what we call that word, Christology or Christophany, something like that. It's a word for in the Old Testament where we see Jesus as a person coming and foreshadowing. You know, so he was for Christians at Sodom and Gomorrah with Abraham. He was the one where, you know, Abraham said, what if there's 100 good people, will you destroy the city? And then, you know, it went down, whether there's 80 or 50 or whatever.
Right.
It's very, very, very interesting. I was messaging. I'm gonna guess my mother. Yes.
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. And there's a lot of stuff in there. Like I say, it's a lot of time.
Very interesting. Bouncing around so many different topics like that.
No, that's not me bringing it.
No, that's me.
It's to your machine.
Yeah, because it goes to the iPad too. That iPad, and then another iPad, and then bouncing everywhere.
Yeah, no, okay.
Actually, I think this is good because for next time, it actually gives a lot of cool topics.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. And that all starts with the language. Like language, and I think seeing different perspectives that we see.
The Tower of Babel, huh?
That one gets me too. It's like, wait, for me, more languages is good. I love the fact that there's more languages. There was one...
Yeah, but remember we were talking about, like, English.
Yeah.
It's a hard language to learn from a foreigner's person. So... what is the sweet spot? You know, how many words, how many sounds, how many tenses?
But I just think we need different ones. Like there should be different different languages. There's one guy, he was talking, a linguist,
Mm-hmm.
and I was listening on him, and he was talking about a different indigenous language,
Mm-hmm.
Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And he said
This
in
is from
Hope,
South America, right?
yeah, exactly. It's south or southern?
South America.
Right in South America.
Yeah.
It's like Texas, Arizona, and stuff like this. Maybe not.
Yeah, well,
In the Americas,
not
somewhere in
New Mexico, I think, and down that way.
Maybe further down.
Because they're very spiritual.
But
They have legends of
just
aliens and all sorts of stuff.
well, that aside, it was just the structure of the language, like how they process things in terms of time and
Now,
space.
I want to say something. I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Because that one, in terms of the theory of relativity, like the theory of relativity, it's talking about space, bending time, these kind of things. It's easier to explain
Like
in
the
Hope
Mayans.
than in English.
The Mayan calendar, they
Just
say,
with-
was like that too.
But just with how the language is, just strictly outside of the culture of it, just the language.
It's very
Like
interesting.
how you say,
yeah,
like
especially
earlier,
when
we
you
were
think
talking about-
mathematically too, huh?
But it's like earlier, there's some languages they have time tenses, like verb tenses, and time and whatever.
It makes me think about the
Others think
universe.
about time and
The
space.
expansion
and
of the universe,
Yeah.
the rate is increasing. And another thing that was big on for me was from the center of the universe, or where the gravity will be the strongest. The same thing. Time is going to be different.
Mhm.
And that was what in the New Age movement was a big thing for 2012, and in that area that we're going to be moving into an area where at least consciously our time will change.
You can change
the rate.
perceptions and stuff.
I mean, we know pretty sure that the magnetic poles have switched. We see a lot of things, and when it comes to like Atlantis, that was a big thing that it's supposed to be in that area around the Gulf of Mexico or just off the coast there. This is my understanding where native people came from. That it was not from China and over and around like that. So I find it very interesting. There's a lot of alternative views on that.
That was like the New Age view. Because there, like the Mormon view, it was like
The Mormon view is messed up.
it came out in boats 1,000 years ago.
No, Joseph Smith is a liar. The thing is too,
But I think the original or the
they don't
one that I
follow
heard,
that
like
anymore.
that people coming over the land bridge from
Yeah.
Mongolia
I
and
think
Russia.
genetically it's okay.
That one seems to make sense to me.
But I think for myself it makes more sense for me that if there was that continent that they spread out from there, especially when we're talking about culture and we're talking about technology. We find some things in South America that's similar to in Egypt type
like
area,
this, yeah.
Egypt, Africa.
Oh yeah, and how fast
And the
people
technology
move
too, yeah.
on. That there was something
Diorite. You know what diorite is?
like we go back to the DNA
Let me
with
look
like
up-
a material.
Let me look up Puma Punka for you.
But the DNA side of things, I was looking at a DNA map of stuff, and it was the guys like Francis Collins who would
Oh
show
yeah,
this.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
That's what changed me from being a intelligent design.
Yeah.
Was to actually
This-
look
like the DNA is amazing, but also genetic diversity as to now.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you say like and just
Or a whale.
Yeah.
Whale inside, like as a fetus, has fingers.
and like
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah,
Like its
That's
flipper has it turns into a flipper, but it has like fingers.
I heard these
It's
got
a
like
mammal.
these hip bones, and they're just kind of hit sticking out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, those whales. But like just genetic diversity amongst humans as we spread and as different.
Have you ever seen
populations
this
kinda
Puma
cut off.
Punka?
Puma Punka.
They are dating this at
These
at least
giant rocks?
at least 1500, like 15,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These stones are diorite. Only diamond is harder. Okay, I want. Well, look at the pictures. We're talking millimeter grooves.
Yeah.
Look,
Nice.
They're having a hard time to figure out how they would do it today. Because this is the way that they interlocked. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But some of the things that you see, like here, like the guy shows the precision. It's laser precision.
Crazy.
Yeah.
No, and that's
lost technology.
Lost
for sure.
technology is a big thing, I think. Yeah, no, that's fun.
Look at this one. See, look. This is diorite. Like you were talking about diamond tip tools.
Yeah.
Whatever they were cutting through was not as hard as this.
Yeah.
This is harder.
That's nuts.
And but look at it.
That's crazy.
That one looks a little bit more eroded, but look at that, man. That's
just
fucking
sharp.
part of my language. That's flat, man.
Yeah. No, that's amazing stuff.
And I think 15,000 years ago, maybe it's only 10,000 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
And this is they would build temples and take rocks from here, or there's, this is up in the mountains too. It's another thing.
Yeah.
Pumapunka, let me see here. I'll
It's
pull it up
crazy,
here.
right? Because you see
Tiwanaku,
there's a lot of these things, yeah. In Bolivia.
It is believed to date AD 536.
536. Because that's a long time. Like I always say that, and in the winter, like now, I always think like wherever it is, they say they found remnants
Egypt,
up in the north
in
of Canada,
Egypt,
15,000 years.
But like Egyptologists, for instance, because they're Abrahamic religion, they're what do you call them? Historian type of archaeologists. They won't date it past 5,000 or 6,000 years because they're creationists. Mm-hmm. Now, especially when it comes to the Sphinx, it is pointed at a constellation, but when you rewind, like on a Google star map type of thing, when you rewind back in time, it points to it at like 15,000 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And the erosion by geologists on it is water erosion to the level of when there was rain of that type 15,000 years ago.
Wow, right?
And especially the face of it, it's obviously that it was damaged and changed. It's a big thing. Yeah. So this is the same thing when it comes to Atlantis. It's supposed to be around the same time period. Somebody else built that in a different time. And the resemblance to that and to Pumapunka and different sites like that, all corresponding at the same time. There's a book I have here. I haven't read it, but I'll pull it out.
It'll be fun, and I'm sure we'll just discover more and more. Like to find the tools that made
Where's
those
my Graham Hancock? There's another thing. I have some people that are into some nonsense, and I wish they would talk to me about it, because I'm not like I'm not a simple Bible banger kind of guy. I got deep truth. Fingerprints of the gods. Graham Hancock. He's a big stoner. This is all about ancient civilizations. Mm-hmm. I do not think they're like there's this one group, they think that aliens came like 20,000 years ago and seeded life on Earth. Scientifically, this is retarded. Historically speaking, it's retarded. But we do have high levels of technology in our ancient past.
That's it. Like it would have showed up somewhere in the DNA.
And what is that?
I suppose I would see it.
Did you know too that the pyramids, they were covered in limestone. To see the Great Pyramid when it was original, it was white.
Oh yeah.
It was something totally different. Where's that place? There's another place that they found that's at least 10,000 years old. I forget the name of it. Normally,
there's got to be these lost technologies, but like I say, what I want to see is like the tools, and I'm sure it'll come up, right? Like archaeology just gets better and better and better to find out what sort of tools they used to cut those rocks. Like that's going to be fascinating when you find those things.
For me, as a Christian,
or find out a different technologies they used to do it. Right?
As a Christian,
imagine if they had like water cutters, like those high pressure cutters that could cut like.
And there's certain things that they think, because like there's some, because I don't know what I think about Atlantis anymore, but there's supposed to be some type of electromagnetism to be able to float certain rocks, or that at certain temperatures, or no, not at certain temperatures, certain vibrations, because you've seen it before. When you vibrate certain things, molecularly they change. So there's some kind of sound, like instead of using water to cut that, it's a sound that will make the molecules loose and more malleable. This is also true, like in some Buddhism, the same thing. There's supposedly like a cave where like a Buddhist guy punched a hole, or used his hand, made a hole with his hand, but with his spiritual, mental type of power.
Sure.
That's where I would go with it. These ancient civilizations, as far as I understand, were spiritually more advanced, and they had a similar level of technology, but in a different way. That we de-evolved a little bit.
Yeah. No, it would be really fun. Like I got to keep my mind open to all that stuff. Like maybe we'll figure out some of this Jedi kind of stuff.
Well, as a Christian,
manipulate matter. That would
like
be
for instance, when
useful.
it comes to the Gospels, this is one thing I love about science and history and stuff like that. Nothing that comes out or has been or is, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. There's no math, there's no reason or logic, there's no science, there's no history. Nothing for me has ever come close to changing my faith or whatever. It only builds onto it and makes it stronger. So when it comes to the Gospels, for instance, they found now a mummy, like for a pharaoh, has a really high level of technology in mummifying it. But the lower class people, some of them would get like a paper mache over their mummy mask. It's not fine linen or whatever, but they would use paper and you know, like the newspaper, you know. Sometimes it's the same thing when the Dead Sea Scroll were found, you know, like, or some other scrolls too. They didn't have any paper, so they're burning the 1,000-year-old papers. They don't know better. So anyways, they have found a copy, maybe not the full copy, but a part of the Gospel of Matthew on a paper mache mask, and it's put to something like, I think it's around 80, 50, something like that. We keep finding stuff that keeps pushing it back a little bit more. The big thing that atheist people or secular people don't understand is Paul, or Saul of Tarsus, you know, he wrote almost half of the New Testament. And, you know, in ancient Rome and those, you know, it was historians and stuff like that, it's like on a historical level, there's no other writings at so far or so close to the time period. Like we're talking 20 years, maximum 30 years of when Jesus died. He was talking to the disciples. He was talking to the brother of Jesus. It's very exciting for me. Like the more that I really learn, the more I learn from, you know.
Like James, you were talking about James too.
Yeah, James, I like it. It's really. Now I don't know if that
wasn't he one of the ones, like he was. Writing
well, that was
he was one of the brothers.
Well, that the brother of Jesus named James, and that was a big thing too, because again, when we talk about, look, I'll say allegedly they seen Jesus rise from the dead, right? Now remember, almost all of them were martyred and killed for saying that. Would you go to that extent for something you know to be a lie? And what for? This is the reason why, you know, we say, like, okay, they must have believed it. Now, there's a couple other books I have that will go into more detail, like why it's not mass hallucination. But that is the brother of James, who headed the Church of Jerusalem after. But he was not a believer while Jesus was alive. It wasn't until after that he had a post-resurrection experience. It's very, very interesting. And again, like, for me, it's just, the more I get into it on a I don't want to say professional level, but kind of like professional level, it's exciting. Beyond just the professional aspect, like we were talking earlier, like the different experiences that I have where it's a real, hey, I'm here. You know, especially when it corresponds to me, like in a verbal, I want to know you, help me, you know, like, and then, you know, an hour later or whatever type of thing. I'm getting more excited too as my faith builds for more glimpses, because I know that my mind and my analytical side, there's skepticism and doubt in my subconscious, I think, something like that, that's kind of holding me back a little bit. And the more I get a little bit here, a little bit here, it's like we were saying earlier when I said God, full sight of God will burn you. I always would say the same thing as the glory of God. It's like he put sunglasses on us, and that comes up in spiritual warfare a lot. If we could actually see into the spirit realm, like what if there are demons and angels and there, you know, so much that we couldn't actually handle, and we'd be freaking out, like, oh my God, what is that? What's that? You know, that sometimes to have, you know, not have full capabilities. And that, again, too, when we're talking about heaven and hell and the Garden of Eden, same thing. And the New Age aspect would be, if you create with your mind, if your mind is not a good mind, you know, you're up in heaven, or like when Jesus says, when you look at a woman, you lust in your mind. So when you're in heaven, you know, and you see someone else's wife, and your mind can create or do something, if you're unable to control your mind or yourself, it's kind of, because you're in a different level, you're in a different reality. And if you can think bad things, or, you know, or have imagination, it makes things a little more, well, that's why it doesn't work. That's why it doesn't happen. It can't be like, there's different kind of thoughts.
Yeah, no, and the actual reality of all those things. But no, I'm definitely glad that. Well, I guess again,
I think for myself,
like I haven't had the experiences. I suppose, like when you're talking about the actual supernatural experiences that you talk
someday.
about.
I'll tell everybody, man.
Because that's
I will tell everybody, just
not looking like directly into the sunlight, but it's just sort of like
I think it's like my pastors say, it's we got to keep remembering, at least for Christians, like I would tell you, it's a personal relationship with Jesus. So before I really started to get those things, it really had to be just me alone. Hey, how are you? What do you think about this going on in my life? And it would start kind of like that, and having a sense or awareness of a presence. It's really started like that. We're pursuing a relationship with someone who gives us so much free will to not believe in him that he kind of makes it almost that it's not that he makes it that he's not here, but he makes it that you still have the choice, like you have the choice to not believe. So and to start at that point.
I just need some proof is all that's like.
Well,
no, but when it comes down to like again,
but that's what he's saying is it's the proof that you have to create, in a sense that you have to initiate it. You know what I mean?
I guess I would be following like the lines of just watching.
I would just
what would have happened at the time of Moses, or the time of Jesus.
I wouldn't think about that.
And the supernatural stuff that was.
Oh, it's amazing! Yeah.
That would have happened, and those would be the messages, and then people can look at that and say, meh, or not. In my mind, if something like miraculous, if I was like looking at someone and then the guy with lupus walks up and he's just cured,
but there were people like that.
I would turn around. I would not and
I know, but
you know what I mean.
But there were people at the time that did. That's the whole point too, right?
But then
the Pharisees, the Sadducees,
to do it so without any revelation at all, and just say you gotta believe or not on your own without showing any signs. That's really a part where I get.
I don't think that it is like that. I think it's easy to.
Well, just in terms of we don't get any more disciples or prophets or anything.
Well,
like
I wouldn't say that we don't. It's the thing.
For a certain time,
we still do have supernatural things and healings and stuff like that, but again, it has to be personal for you. God isn't going to give you something that can be a stumbling stone for you or someone else. What's the goal for God? He's already won. He's already got everything that he wants. He has everything that he wants. He doesn't need anything. The only thing he's desiring is a personal relationship. So I think you gotta ask yourself.
Well, I think about that. Like we talk about the father relationship elsewhere too, and it's sort of like imagining that I'm a father of a kid that doesn't know about me yet.
Yeah.
Who's far away, and he's got to learn about me to have a relationship with me.
But that's what
I want
Jesus
to have
for,
a relationship with him.
You gotta go.
Now, if I'm the father going into this, like, what is the best way to help this child have a personal relationship with me?
Yeah, for sure.
But and it comes to me with like, okay, I'm gonna wait here, or like as a father, I would just wait in California.
With perfect
New York, for him to figure out that I want it. But it's like on the child. How would the child know that I want to have a personal relationship with him?
Revelation.
That's it. So revelation is me going to New York and saying, "Hey, kid, I want to have a relationship with you. You get to decide or not."
It's not.
And that's how I see.
But that's the problem.
How I see the personal relationship.
You're going bottom up, though.
I'm just trying to say, like, as a personal relationship. That's why I would like him just like. And again, I spend a lot of time as a Christian thing. So not to go too deep into it again.
No,
we've gone through these things.
But you have to understand.
You know what I mean? You just
because God.
I would just expect.
Father God is perfect, and we can't expect Him to follow our rules or.
I'm not expecting Him to follow our rules.
No. But listen. Let me finish. Yeah. Because His nature, He can't do certain things, and because He's given you such a level of free will from His love, this is where justice comes into play. This is why there is Jesus. This is why the second person came to restore the relationship, because we are sinful. You know, he whether you love your kid or not, if he's destructive and needs to go to the mental hospital or whatever, you will send him there. And so in our life, and his eyes, we're not ready yet. But then he sends a part of himself.
But I'm coming from
get to us
not expectations about what I would create if I was a deity and I want to create. I'm not starting from there. I'm just starting from the point again, like I say.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Of Moses, of Jesus' time, like of people who were living around Jerusalem or around Jesus during the time of that he was there.
Yeah, there's
Those
multitude,
people,
thousands, tens of thousands of
that's
people.
it. Those people would just have a different experience than I would have. You know, and the fact that that experience is
I don't
different,
know.
then again, we're talking about, like, his son was here for us, you know. And again, like, just the fact that there's just that difference. That's why I came around to be like, just that general revelation is sufficient for me. Just because
But that's just a starting point, you know. That's
98% of
the purpose of it is to move you along, you know.
But 98% of the time of human evolution,
there
wasn't special revelation. And special revelation to me was miraculous things that happened during just very specific times. Like, some of them can be thought of as parables.
But like you said, it's sufficient for you, right? So this is what.
I just think that
it goes back to what I'm saying. You know,
no. It's not that it's sufficient for me. It's just
you are a unique person. You're a unique person. No, but let me finish, please.
You know? Like, looking at the system that was set up, that we've been discussing.
That is set up. It hasn't changed.
Okay, but no, that was set up when it was set up.
No, but it's all the same. God doesn't change.
Looking at how it was described in terms of Jesus just performing miracles, doing things that were supernatural.
Yeah, they still happen though.
But those are the things that I'm looking for, and I haven't seen them yet. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know why God hasn't shown you that, but for me, I know, and I've seen things.
And I just
and as a Christian, we are taught to do more than Jesus, and that's why we have to understand there is a reason why we perceive things or are aware of things a certain way, because especially you are a unique person. You are a special individual. I don't know you well enough, but God knows you well enough. And if we over extrapolate the purposes, that's why a lot of people just say, you have to, I can't tell you why.
No,
you have to go look in self, and then you got to go when you're alone and just ask.
I would say any of the things that were described, like any of those things.
It took me a long time. Like, remember this right now. Right now, I said, I know in my subconscious there are things that are preventing me, and I've been working on it. Okay. So you have to look into yourself, or ask God. Just ask Him.
What I would say was that if there was a replication of any of the miracles that we see in the Bible today, that would be sufficient.
I know, but God has a reason, and a lot of apologetic.
So all I would say is, like, I'm not going outside.
What? Okay, I'll flip it. What is the reason? What is the reason for God not to show you that? Does He think you would abuse that?
Anyways, I think we're getting off track.
Does He think He would? Does He know that you would abuse it? Does it bring Him glory? Maybe, like, there are a lot of healers.
And neither
they
of us
start off as a real
mind of God.
No, I wouldn't say that we can't. I wouldn't say that. I would say right now for the things that we're talking about, we don't know, and maybe we do know, but we're not aware. Like we're talking about the Garden of Eden. Maybe they had free will, but they weren't aware of their free will. It's one of those things, and it always comes back to, I don't want to over extrapolate. It's just a personal relationship, and that's why, you know, for me, that's exciting right now. One of my prayers is, God, let your Holy Spirit guide me onto the resources to let me deal with this problem, or to learn more about you, or because if we're only thinking about it, if we're asking God for spiritual things to satisfy our intellectual desire, you know, and that you can know God intellectually in books, or you can know Him personally, spiritually, emotionally. So it's like, even with the therapy, I was saying, a lot of people, even myself, when I have feelings, I don't know my feelings. I have more than one feeling at once, and I got to really. I could say personally, in my heart and in my spirit, God tells me and reveals to me He's going to, and when you're ready, He will give you those things. But it won't be to satisfy your intellect. It's going to be more to, when you have a bit more faith for whatever reason, and faith is a tricky thing. It's a big word that has a lot of connotation put onto it. But when you get there, it will be for a different reason. It will be to bring Him glory. It will give you more faith. Because when you know who you are, like as that Son of God, why do you know it and feel it? What kind of self-esteem do you have then? And it's not from here, great, you know.
And that's why, you know.
And He'll give you that. Then He'll give you a miracle in front of your eyes, and you're gonna be like, "Wow, all of who I am is more now."
Well, no, and I appreciate that there are, and I feel, and I think we read together that, like, Jesus came for Christians, and that,
No, it
You know,
came for everybody.
Well, anyways, the different readings that perhaps Frank and I did together, that he was talking to O Jerusalem and these kind of things, that worked well for me in just understanding that is a great path to the truth, if we are. And that, again, each one is different, and each one's given different tools, different ways of looking at the world. And that for me, seeing the order of the universe, it's like, okay, well, now I kind of see what natural looks like. What does supernatural look like? Well, it would break some of these laws, right? It would go, like, again, just levitating things, or like, you know, healing the sick. Just
and that's a good reason why it doesn't happen, because it wouldn't be supernatural if it was an everyday thing.
There it is. But that just as a proof of that, like, if we can get to a point where we see these things as these are natural, and then if God wanted to save the maximum people,
in like, you're a mathematician. We don't have any infinity.
We know
that creation has to be supernatural.
Accept your path, or the path of Christians, but then also have these reasonings why I feel even through the logic
they're
that
supposed to be
together,
there. They're supposed to be there.
That people can be saved without that message, or can be saved even with that message, but not buying into it entirely.
I understand.
That's what I believe.
I just think that, personally, I disagree in the sense that I just think it's one step going up. And if you choose to stay on that step, then that's your choice. But if you get revelation tomorrow, hey, I'm up at the top of the steps. You're in New York and I'm up here, and he just gives you enough to just one more step. Because it in all of life, as we evolve and get better in our experience, more often than not, we're letting go of something that doesn't work, especially when we're talking about emotions and behavior patterns. And that's what is hard, I think, especially because you're having a conflict. The supernatural is kind of supposed to be rare, not supposed to happen. But like I said, for me, mathematically, infinity is not in our universe. We can understand it as a concept, but we have no beginning. We only have we can only start at one point and go infinity up. We know that nature has a supernatural cause. So we're given a concept, and we're given proof that it exists.
But I don't buy that entirely.
Well,
I don't know that entirely. I mean, I can't say for certain that we can't go infinitely into the past. Like, I don't.
Well, we do, because there is a start.
Well, I'm just saying I don't know.
There is a starting point to the universe. Mathematically speaking, there is no zero. Like, it goes back to a zero. There's no cosmological.
I can't say that for certainty. I can see some proofs of different things.
But there is. I'm telling you that right now, in modern science, math, cosmology, there is, like, it's almost 100%. There's
a lot of debate, and just something.
No, there's not in cosmology.
Yeah,
not
for
in
sure
cosmology.
there is, because we can project back, like you say, the mathematical. Like, what I've seen is sort of the expansion argument. You can project it back and say, oh well, it probably was this small back this.
No. There is no small.
If we take into certain assumptions,
Stephen Hawking's singularity has been proven false. There is no singularity. That's what I'm saying.
Even with those things, we can only measure back to a certain thing, and that's in
no. That's what I'm saying. Especially when we take all of it, especially from a mathematical.
I'm just saying I can't have certainty on that, and I do know that.
I'm not saying that it's not certain, because when there is certainty 100%, then we have no free will, which that makes no sense to me.
But I'm just saying.
I know. Yeah. Like, when it comes to the top scientists, the top physicists, like Lawrence Krauss, or and I'm up to date on this. This is my gig.
We'll do another one. This
is my gig.
Seriously,
as far as I know, as far as I know, there is no model that works.
There are though. Let's not do it now.
I really want to, because I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
We'll go into that. We'll go into the origins, because I understand. Like, a prevailing theory is like the Big Bang Theory. But
the rate of expansion of the universe right now, that not just that is expanding,
I understand.
It would fling apart.
I shouldn't have.
The rate of expansion means that it's expanding at a rate that there cannot be a big crunch or a big bounce back. That's what I'm saying. That all the evidence, all the formulas, and not just the science, observable science, the mathematics behind it. I would love to see this, but I would hear about it. I would hear about it right away. You know, this is the thing. In the groups that I belong to,
like I say, there's measurements that are taken about the background microwave radiation.
Yes, that shows that
shows
there's
that,
a moment
please,
before.
Let me finish. Just that there is this expansion. Please, let me just finish.
No, finish it.
But
I want to get a book.
Is that we can then track back linearly? It's like if we have.
I know, that's what I'm saying, and it goes back to zero. It doesn't go back to a singularity.
No, please let me finish, please. So if we say
the
this is
beginning
like
of the universe, there is a great surge.
This is say now, and this is future, and this is past. Say.
You use my argument. It's the thing.
What we can see is this right now, like we've just been measuring for 100 years. It's auto project. So we can see this expansion, and we can see it kind of curving up like this.
Yeah, the rate is increasing.
And so what we do is we say that this is going to go off, and I'll put a dot one out here, so that it expands infinitely, and it's expanding outwards. And then what we do is we put this thing backwards. But again,
that's what I'm saying. When you go back, the equation goes to
zero. So what I'm saying is this is unobserved.
Which part?
Unobserved.
No, but we have observable.
Theoretical.
This is what we observe
for it. This is what we observe.
And this is the background radiation afterglow.
No, this is observed, and unobserved. And what my point is that in the unobserved, I don't take any certainty. So what some have done is they take it back and they put it back to a single dot. And that makes sense. It's an intuitive thing. Like you track it back. If you look at it forwards and it's expanding out like that, well, it must have gone back into a single point. There's nothing for me that necessitates that was the absolute beginning of all things. Like that, there's not a necessity within this.
I've never seen any proof here that would say that it was a singularity. I see evidence against it. And in math, in the scientific observable evidence, and I've never heard of this
a prediction,
before.
Unobserved theory.
The closest I've heard of is Shawn Carroll, the Chen-Carroll model, and it was been proven wrong. It doesn't work. They keep trying to, and this is the problem
too. What do you mean
proven
wrong? It would be like
it doesn't work. It breaks down somehow. It's like saying with the biogenesis. They rig the experiment to make it work. We're looking at people who are trying to make models to show against because of theology.
The thing about the abiogenesis too, like if there's a theory that it could work out of proteins and whatnot, it would take millions of years to work, right? And so to be able to do something in a lab within 10 years, 15 years, 100 years.
No, it's to get the variables right. There's so many variables for that.
But it wouldn't be a realistic experiment.
Like one of the things was exactly. I mean? Yeah, because the atmosphere of the time at that time,
no matter what we could do, right?
I wouldn't say that.
That could reproduce.
We could get close that it would happen.
We might get close, but we could never reproduce it exactly. They might be able to make a
No, but that's what I just said. We can never have certainty on anything.
There we go.
And I think that's because of free will.
There we go.
We can't
that's
have
all I started by saying. I started by saying I am not certain on that. And you said you are absolutely certain.
No, what I'm saying is
that's all I was saying.
What I'm saying is it's possible. It's possible, and it's more probable than this. That's what I'm saying.
No, we started off with absolute certainty on it, though.
No, I didn't say absolute certain. I said I'm pretty certain.
Okay.
And now let me phrase it. I think that it's more probable than what you're saying, and I
haven't said anything. All I said was,
you're saying here
this
that we
is
don't
unobserved theory.
No,
all I said was this unobserved. I haven't even promoted.
But what I'm saying is that it's not it's not. They do like right here. Look, you see, look, I have surge.
This is time. This is time. All we observe is between, say, I don't know, 1800 and
I know this argument is used, but
this is unobserved because we didn't have anything measuring.
Do you know what the redshift is?
That's all I'm saying.
Do you know what the redshift is in light?
4.7 billion.
Do you know what the redshift in light is?
Yes, this is what Hubble used to measure.
And this actually goes back to Einstein too, when they're because
that's fine.
So that's what I'm saying. We do have observable proof from that time. That's what I'm saying.
We don't have observable proof that something got created out of nothing. I guess that's the better. Like out of here, we don't have anything that says it wasn't just packed up. It wasn't just like everything had to start here.
But we do, and the thing is, you're limiting proof to only one thing. There's mathematical proof. There's reason and logic.
I'm saying I have not been convinced that it must have been this way. I'm not convinced of that it must have been. I'm not saying it can't be that way. I'm not saying it's the most possible probable.
Well, that's what I would say. And I don't see, when I look at all the evidence and all the information, I have not seen anything, and I would love to see it.
That's fine.
I would love to see it because what I keep seeing is atheists trying to find something to fit their theology. I don't see it the other way around. The Big Bang, the name Big Bang was to make fun of Christians and creationists. That's where the name actually came from. Here's Surge. It's an acronym for, what was S? There's the radiation afterglow, the expansion of the universe, there's the what do you call it, the thermodynamics of the universe, lots of things like that. That's another thing. If the universe is eternal, we would have no energy left. We would have ran out just by physics alone. This is what I'm saying. I've never heard from any of the top, I'm not talking about the top universities, the top doctors, none of them. They would get the Nobel Prize. It would be on every TV channel. This is one of the biggest questions of life. Mm-hmm. And if it was solved like you're saying,
I didn't say that.
Well, not solved, but within certainty.
I didn't. You know? I said I am not 100% certain that there was like a zero mm-hmm. point in time. That's all I said. Like, all I said is that I'm not 100% certain that there's a 0 point in time. That's how I started. And I realize we're getting kind of heated now. No, but all I said is that I'm not certain that there's a 0 point in time. That's all I said. Yeah, and like I say, there are theoreticians.
I would suggest that you look at it, you know, because there are
aspects of the universe that are really tough to know, and we can't know all of it. And to say that, oh well, if it was this way, we would have no energy. Well, we have energy, so now let's try and find ways that could fit. Again, I haven't seen anything ever created out of nothing. So
a basic of Einstein's theory of relativity is that energy cannot be created or destroyed.
It is.
Know?
Yeah.
So this is what I mean.
So
we're running out of energy.
What happens right here? It got created.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm a creationist.
So that's again that's I guess a theoretical, like a leap after that, but it's just like
that's when it starts. That's why we have a starting point.
There's
a Big Bang. There has to be a Big Banger.
I haven't given up on the fact that there could have been natural cause to the whole universe. Like I haven't given up.
But it still would be a supernatural cause. You know? It's beyond nature.
Everything I've seen has been natural.
Uh-huh.
That's again, it gets back to the evidence of the supernatural. It's like I gotta see it.
But you understand what you just said. Listen to what you just said. Okay. The beginning of nature, the creation of nature. Right? Yeah, what you just said, it has, just by logic, it has to be beyond nature. That's what supernatural means. Supernatural, beyond
what
nature.
I started was that I'm not convinced on the 0.0 thing. That
you can't have nature creating nature. That's the thing. You know
we
what
do
I
it
mean?
all the time. That's how we make babies.
No, we don't make anything. We're just copying information.
Exactly. So it's like there's just the creation. Like when we talk about creation, it's just creating things out of other things, basically. Like genetic material becomes.
See, that's the thing. I wouldn't say that in that sense. I'm saying that supernatural, either it's the essence or this is what we call providence. I don't know how God sustains the universe. Does He sustain the universe? I mean, I would say in the sense only because, again, the teleological argument, the variables and again, too, this is another thing. Each day goes by, they find more variables that suggest and show that there was a starting point, that we have, the electromagnetic of matter, the electromagnetic blah blah blah. There are over 300 variables that they have that are so much fine-tuned and can only be at a starting point.
Yeah. Well, then it gets to the point,
and then it's still the singularity. It don't work, man.
Like if right now something comes here and it's just created in front of us, right? Or you have a glass of water and it turns into wine.
Nothing.
It doesn't happen. But if that happened, as it did in the Bible, mm-hmm. those things like creation out of nothing, like you could create loaves and fish out of nothing.
Mm-hmm. I think it happens. Yeah.
And if that happens,
but what's the purpose for it?
That's what proves to me that this is a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think you'll get it someday.
Creatio ex nihilo. See, and that's what I want to see. And then this becomes possible, because otherwise we can say, well, it can't, and this can't happen. But all I've seen is that something can't.
But God knows. God knows you. God knows you that
the leap that everything was created out of.
No. Look, you are an individual, and God knows you, and He knows you want that up there. But if He knows that you can get there step by step and actually be a better, more evolved person in this point, that it's not actually too hard to see why he would want it to go that way. And that's what I'm saying is when you get to that point that he'll give you that, it's going to be for a different reason.
So then
it's all for his purpose, you know.
What I'm observing and how I'm reacting and what I'm thinking now, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Oh, of course. Yeah, for sure.
So I don't have to worry about it in that sense.
No, and that's why we're kind of done, you know.
And I'm coming to you, I'm like, look, like it's just, I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying
it
too.
Just hasn't been shown to me
what
yet.
You just
if
said for me is a part. You are one of those variables at the starting point. Mm-hmm. You are part of that equation, and you are where you're supposed to be. I don't believe in the past. I don't believe in the future. I only believe in right now. Mm-hmm. You know, and if I was to look at my Time and Eternity by Dr. Craig, mm-hmm. and we were to start looking at the two main theories of time, you know, B theory of time is, or I would think of it more the other way around, because God enters into creation when he makes it, but he's different before he makes it. But or all of creation on the outside, what does all of creation look like on the outside? All of time and space, you know, it's more theorized that it's like a cube, or because he can see into it, he can interact with one moment. Mm-hmm. This would be all one moment that's unfolded, or, you know, so I guess, yeah, I would, you know, I like that analogy too, that it's folded up. Yeah. But from his perspective, it's already unfolded.
Yeah. No, and I've seen that, like when it's folded and you can kind of touch in here, and then you're touching on...
And we can't even
like
perceive
you're touching on now, like you said, you're touching now and in the past at the same time. If I folded it properly.
And that again comes back to free will too. Like, do we really do what we think we do?
But I just feel like, you know, if it goes along, like you say, it's just the steps thing. I don't know, I'm not keeping that really, but you know, it's just okay. This is what I'm supposed to be doing right now, almost. As long as I'm doing things like, again, just
I would change the prayer around. I would change the prayer around, because this is, I find, the problem with prayer as I grow. It's too self-centered and too selfish. Mm-hmm. I would be more like, can you help me understand why I'm not getting that? Mm-hmm. You know, instead of like, you know, because sometimes, spiritually speaking, the more we desire something, the more it goes away from us. It's kind of like in Buddhism, they're trying to get rid of things, mm-hmm. you know, trying to get rid of attachments. It's the same thing when we're talking about gravity. The more that gravity something has, the more reality, time and space is bent and curved and warped and twisted around it. So there's a lot of things built into objective moral values and duties. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and again too, like you're saying, the more we let go of what we want, you know, it's like you find love when you're not mm-hmm. looking for it. It's so hard. I think it's because, I don't want to be mean to you or to me, but we're hard-headed. Mm-hmm. And and we're not patient. We want what we want now, and this is where we started with the too much.
Yes, you do. We're too much. We started 4 hours ago by saying we go too much.
Really? We're not going 4 hours, huh? 2 hours. Oh, it's gonna be a big file. It's gonna be like a 6 gigabyte file.
It'll crash everything. Oh yeah, no, and we are hard-headed, and we do like, and it takes us longer, and that's like that too, right?
I just too when you get there, I think that's why mm-hmm. there's a reason for the hard-headedness. I love reading about King David in the Bible. Mm-hmm. He's like one of my favorite, because he's like makes mistakes, but the most important is he had a heart like God's, mm-hmm. you know. And when he made mistake, he'd be sorry, but he was a warrior. He mm-hmm. killed lots of people. Mm-hmm. You know, he's a lover. You know, like, and I just think that's there's a reason for that. You know, and for me, when I'm looking at the words that I use and the things that I say, and I'm trying to improve it, I want to bring glory to God. Mm-hmm. I want to show people or help God to help someone like you. This is mm-hmm. kind of rude and arrogant, but hey, there's something possible. Maybe there's one more step for you. You know, I'm just a tool. I'm not even a finger, you know, like I'm just mm-hmm. one little part. But there's me talking, maybe there's Frank, maybe, you know, and then, like I said, for me, it's like, it's those little moments. It's like I said, when I walk in church and that song is playing, what's the probability? It's a 3-4 minute song? What's the probability that right then and there I could have kept walking and going to where I was going, and I just popped in only for a minute? That's a 4-minute song. What if I took a different way and I still went there, but I was just 2-3 minutes after? Obviously it's just a coincidence. What do you know? But let's look at the hard math of it. Especially when I know that's not a gospel song. That's not in a gospel playlist. There's I know when people put things on random on YouTube, things come up what might be popular or whatever, and there's algorithms, but that's my it can be a coincidence, but that's my simple, very small supernatural thing for me. That's just one, and I want that too, like you. But I know that it's not God not providing it to me. I just, for myself, my understanding, is me not providing it to me. There's something about me. It's not God that keeps us away from Him. It's always us and our sin, and like again, the hell. What is hell? It's the separation, and what's wrong with me. And then the different story too, because in God's eyes, there's nothing really wrong. We're His kids, and that's why He's that patient and not freaking out. Why aren't you here yet?
Yeah, no, indeed, and it is, like you say, it's a whole different ball of wax. But we'll see how it goes. Like I say, I still
we're young.
We're still young. No, and I do feel like well, we do, anyways. Yeah, no, that's good, and I definitely don't want to deny anyone else's path or anything like that. But I understand there are those to say.
I'm at a point myself. I don't need to defend God. God is God.
That's it. No, and I think we got to that too with others too, and it was just like, well, it's not up to us. Let's just have fun,
I think
as it were.
It takes off the pressure off.
It does.
But I still know that I have a purpose to not to defend, but like in the Bible says, to give a reason for the hope that is in my heart. Because we're talking spiritual, we're talking emotional, we're talking mental, we're talking physical, we're talking very, very, very multi-dimensional existence that we're living,
Indeed. No, and it's good. No, and I enjoy these conversations. I enjoy conversation. I got into it recently with different people, different cultures, we'll say. That it's just fascinating to see how people have come to find that peace. How they've come to find kind of their best self, as it were. Like as you'd put it, he wants to get to your full potential. And in my mind, it's just like, wow, how could you find it with a totally different path than me?
Or like you said too, we can't know the full mind of God. So technically, there is no full potential. And again, I understand you don't see or you're not there yet that the universe is finite. But that would be for me, because obviously we're thinking that we obviously agree that outside of it, especially when we talk about true vacuum. That's another thing for me. Why is the universe expanding? We don't have true vacuum anywhere. When we look at this, is the glass half empty, half full? It's half. No, it's full. It's full of the liquid and it's full of air. And then, like Rob Decker says, I'm just glad God gave me a cup.
That's nice. Yeah, that's good.
Puts things into perspective.
But I like getting to it. How about I ask you a question? Maybe one other question. Like, it's kind of like the rainbows thing, and it was an analogy. Like rainbows is saying, no, God made rainbows for this reason, and then we figure out, rainbows are just sunlight refracting through water. It's just kind of cool, It probably wasn't that they just showed up after the flood.
Or like stars are made to shoot God's enemies. It's
in
the Quran,
But it's like, these are just analogies or something, right? Or they're just ways of thinking about stuff, not trying to make it exact. So, but imagining, so now we talk about the Big Bang. What if it happened that, whatever you call it, the Chen Carroll thing. What if that was true? What if it was an infinite universe? That doesn't, in my mind, negate.
Oh, I know.
Negate the Christian God. Even it's just like, God just decided to do it a different kind of way, but He's infinite. So the fact that the universe is infinite,
I would use a multiverse theory.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Well, I would use a multiverse theory, because
even if beyond a shadow of the doubt we prove the multiverse thing, it's like. God's bigger than everything. He could do that if he wanted. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the whole point.
It's not as though if
there's a multiverse, there's still universes being created. You know what I mean? So there still needs to be a universe creating machine, so to speak.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like a multiverse, in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong,
I think it's
doesn't
just 'cause
contradict the Christian Bible.
I think it's the
It's just a different. It's just like saying that
I
rainbows
can't-
are
I can't-
refracted
I
light.
wouldn't say that because
You know what I mean?
it's like talking about religions.
Yeah.
The world religions. There's some people who want to tell you the basis is the same for all of them, but it's not. There are contradictions. So I would say that. I would say, yeah, an eternal universe would contradict the Bible. The Bible says that God, especially with His Word, and I like sound, and this is what we keep seeing in modern cosmology and physics, that in the beginning was sound that come into light, you know, when we're breaking down those first few moments, you know. So I would say that, but it goes more than that, because it is a sound from intent coming from a consciousness, from an awareness. So there's so many different layers to it.
But you're
know?
starting with like, and I feel like, and it's part of the Big Bang thing that gets me, and it's fine, but it feels like, would we stop with time? But time, like if we think time and space as a four-dimensional thing, it could just be a three-dimensional thing with time being a secondary effect.
Our perception of time is a moving time that moves forward.
It feels like, yeah, and like we talk about Einstein, and it's just like wells of gravity. Anyways, whatever. But time, in my mind, is like going up the dimensional level, like we did with Frank. You know, like you start with one dimension, and it's a point, or one dimension is a line, right? 0 dimension is a point. 1 dimension is a line. Now, a line. I can imagine an infinite line, right? You can think of...
I can imagine it, but you can't draw one. Is the thing.
Or even just 3 dimensions, even a simple 3-dimensional thing like this, like a book. There are an infinite number of 2 dimensions within a finitely boxed 3-dimensional thing. Like there's an infinite number of lines within a box.
This is what we call...
It's like stacking things
Yeah, but
up,
this
right?
is theoretical infinity. It's not proven to be. That's what I mean.
But this is where I love maths. So then when you get to that, it's like going up to 5th dimension, would have all 4 dimensions.
This is what my understanding is, because it is
So-
only like that because you are perceiving and thinking about it. We need a consciousness to
No,
have
all
that.
I'm saying is that if you go up to 5 dimensions could very well be the stopping point. And within 5 dimensions, you have an infinite 4th dimension. That theoretically exists. So in my mind, that could, in reality, exist. And then it doesn't negate one supreme thing. Like we got to Frank, that in theoretical mathematics or theoretical physics, dimensionality as we know it could go up to 10, 11, or 26 dimensions.
More, I know.
And still be consistent with the mathematical theories around it. You get M theory, string theory, and
I like
something
string theory
else.
myself, yeah.
And, you know, but it's just like you say, it's pie in the sky stuff. I can't be certain about any of that. It's just like nice, fun constructs that I can work with. And then going through with you and with Frank
There's
more, it
still
was
a
like,
level of probability,
what
you
if
know?
God was just up at the 26th dimension? Then the stuff that you were talking about with like the just always creating stuff, we could just be the first 4 dimensions. And he could be doing all sorts of stuff between 5 dimensions all the way up to 26, which is like
I
realms
think that,
of demons and devils and
Oh, yeah,
hells
yeah.
and all the way up to him. Heaven is only 25 because he's obviously going to be greater than, you know, like all that still works in my mind in the construct without having to break stuff. It's just like, we don't know yet, but
that's what I'm saying. Like,
you know,
look, when you multiply by 0, what do you get?
0.
0, okay? But when you use infinity in sets, and you know you're the math guy, it works, right? So you have to get to that point. You can show nothing doesn't work, you know, but you can show that what you're saying, it can work as far as you can perceive. But you're also shown that it can go forever. So this is the thing. Like to get around eternity is a little bit. We're like trying to show different things wrong at the same time. It's kind of weird, you know.
And it gets to these contradictions.
This
like,
is why
just
it's
weird things,
easier
yeah.
to show that something is false than it is to show something is true, and that's the whole point of falsibility with science, you know. It's a teapot floating, teapot around Mars or whatever thing. Like we can come up with things that, and that's why for me, what is more probable, you know, as we get more science or more, you know, it's either going to go one way or the other. It either makes it more probable or less probable, or it makes one theory, it shows one theory is broken and doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's what I love about science. It just keeps like the guy that gets the Nobel Prize is the one that proves the current system wrong.
Yeah,
like it's your goal is to bust. If anyone can bring down Einstein, you're just like the biggest rock star. It's not a bad thing to bring down like the gurus of science.
Well,
there would be certain schools of thought it would be hard to get in.
I think like for me, from my understanding, because it's just like that, talking about reality, we know it's time and space, you know, and it's the same thing for me. It's like I understand there's consciousness, I understand there's physical reality, I understand there's time, and even an emotional state, you know, people can say it's biological only, but it is something. Emotion is something. And then spirit for me really is something. And that's the thing too. It's like only one thing is going to get you only so high. But when you get, it's like math or physics, you know, physics, we kind of do need time to test physics. We need time and space. You know, we're only get so far with one thing only. It's like the same thing. They will say the grandfather or the grandmother of science, it's going to be math and it's going to be philosophy. You cannot do science without philosophy. You cannot do science without math.
That's it. And that's why these things, like these dimensionality, it's just like imagine something. Now let's see if we can see it happen, or let's see if we can predict it. Does it work on the predictions? Like, is it
wow, but that's a different thing. Like I said,
not predictable, but
like the redshift. We look at the stars, and what we see didn't happen, or already happened. We are observing something. We are. So this is why I don't like to say when we're talking about evidence, you know, because I understand that proof and evidence is actually more expansive than most people think. People say evidence, they think only scientific evidence. They only think observable, but it's not the only way. And yeah, it's just
no, indeed.
I always see one way really, or three ways. You can believe, not believe, or you can be just not knowing, you know. And I think it's good to be pragmatic, but to be hopeful or to be always searching out more. And again, it's kind of the same thing. I know that it's infinite, and I can be sad by that, or I can be happy that I always get more of something good too, you know. Yeah, and again, for me, it's the same thing. The universe is expanding. The apple tree only needs to get one seed in the ground, but there's hundreds, if not thousands, of apples. All of nature, and that's always my equation. I know the rate of expansion is more than probably +1, especially that it's increasing. But in all of reality, that's what I see. You know, there is, like I say, we have supposedly a finite amount of energy. But I still look at what's happening with it. You know, it's always order coming from chaos, different rates. And when, especially with consciousness, when there's destruction, it's usually for a rebirth or a new start. So it's, you know, we're just looking at the same thing in different ways, really. And just, again, it comes down to whether we're talking about God or people or matter or time. It's always relationship. You know, we're in relationship with time, we're in relationship with things around us. And it's interesting, especially like going back, like I said, why is there a minimum of 2 people? Because for me, if the nature of reality at its fundamental aspect is love, what is love anyways? But if you kind of need more than one, and so relationship actually, it's not really a requirement, but it is reality in a sense, you know. I don't think I've ever seen that, even in apologetics. I don't think I've ever seen that written like that in the attributes of God.
Like just in the love,
or just that relationship is the nature of God, a part of God. Like well, it has to be. We know that, like a Christian would say that, just for there to be a Trinity, like obviously there is relationship. And that's why we kind of base ourselves after that too, like trying to be like Jesus, trying to be like, you know, it's like striving for that perfect relationship that they had, that's already in place, that's unchanging. It's really interesting too, though. It really comes always down to free will too, I guess, to like to choose.
and to choose to be good or bad, like you say, that's it too, right? You know, you're talking to my brother, like hardcore atheist, that he's actually, he would call himself a virtue ethicist, which is similar, like you set up that perfect ideal, as it were, like you know, and him for like that innate knowing what would be good or not good, you know, hurting your fellow man, these kind of things, you know, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you, like having that perfect ideal, someone who would always do that. It was almost exactly the same, and it's like that relationship as you're talking about, like setting up Jesus like that and trying to aspire to be like that. And that's I find that interesting that he has these very similar kind of things.
It's interesting too, like, because I wouldn't be so strict to say it, but like that it kind of is a contradiction in a sense, you know, especially when we're talking morality. I think it's good, or like a Sam Harris, you know, like to have morality but to be a hardcore determinist. It's kind of like, it's the same thing. It's like,
well, not determinist. Like he would talk about free will too. I think like he would have free will.
I don't think he believes in free will.
My brother? Or
no, Sam Harris.
Sam Harris, no.
But he believes in objective moral values and duties too.
No, I think Sam Harris.
So it's kind of like a.
Yeah, that one is weird, but
because it would be like nature is, you know.
But you can have free will. Like free will doesn't mean you can just do anything if you don't have it, right? Like if suddenly tomorrow it was like somehow revealed, everyone's like, "Hey guys, we don't have free will." It wouldn't be like just going to Sodom and Gomorrah, right? We don't have to, or
I don't know, because
if we don't have free will, we got to go to work tomorrow
because that's information, right? And that information, when it goes into the physical brain, is going to create a chemical change. It really would go to like this dialectic behavior therapy, right? Yeah. We really have to break down like the vulnerability that you're in from past experiences. Yeah. There's so much that would go into it.
Yeah, and I think, and there's things that affect how we act, but in the end, we have free will. And I think that even if they show that, we have to, even if, like, say Sam Harris is right, that somehow we don't have free will, or the Calvinists, or something like this, it would just be like, well, I think
isn't that funny too, huh? That on both sides we have that.
It blows my mind sometimes. Like that you get these, and not even that they're fundamentalists, but sometimes you get these fundamentalists on either side. Like people that go way into essential oils and New Age stuff. People go way into like orthodoxy, and somehow they'd be almost speaking the exact same way by the end.
That's almost like someone like me. Like I let go of what I can, but I still keep it and understand it. I don't totally. I might not agree with like an old worldview, but like if I change this part and change this part and this part, I still understand. Even though I have a new one, I still understand how that other one works and function. Yeah. It's kind of like the irreducible complexity. So especially too, like if I find out something doesn't work here, but that way worked, it's again a Jordan Peterson pragmatic truth. As long as it allows you to move forward, and you know, it's easier to show something is wrong or doesn't work.
And I think that having that perspective, that's important. I remember trying to talk to Steve about that. Like, it was like Steve, like, I don't care if you come from like this psychedelic background, he's been injured and you have these things and whatnot. It's like that's why I want to know you, is because you have this really different perspective from mine. Anyways, didn't quite work out. But just that having any perspective, like bringing that baggage with you at a certain extent, like growing, moving, evolving.
I think it's emotional, man. Like
things that you saw before are so much important. You can't just forget your experience.
That's what I would call rebellion.
Yeah.
I went through basically almost the same thing. Maybe he took more drugs than me. I don't know. But I would say that in his emotional rebellion, that he just chose to stop, and he didn't keep going forward. And normally it's from fear or rejection or hurt or pain, somewhere along the line. You know. And I'm sorry, but I would just say he needs more Jesus, you know, or he needs more love, you know. But
he needs more love, yeah. I think he was getting like by the end. I saw him with his family, his kid and his wife, and I'm like, you know what? I think he's all right. He was setting up a charity the last time I saw. I don't know if that ever worked out, but
his mom is amazing. She's you know, I'll get you a copy sometime of her book. You know, God doesn't do the obvious. It's an amazing book.
Yeah.
And you can see her spiritual experiences.
Was that the lady you were talking about online?
Yeah.
That was his mom.
Yeah. Okay. Sharon's amazing.
Sharon. Yeah, I remember you had a friend writing a book, and I was like, wait, that's the name? That was his mom?
Yeah, man.
Ooh.
You should read her experience about when she went to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
When it's wartime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's but again, it's great to read somebody else's experience. But
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
you know,
It gives that other perspective of like, hey, when someone
True,
else is in a different
true.
place, right?
but at the same time, does it make you long for it more and keep you from it? I don't know. Or, but
know.
you know what? The Bible says faith comes from hearing. You know, so you know what? Because if you know of stuff, like if I know you don't lie, and you, like, again, it goes back to the disciples. No one in their right mind is going to die for something they think is not true, right? So if I think you don't lie, and you're like, well, I saw a UFO last night, you know, and you know, so I can try to think maybe this happened, but at the end of the day, what do they say? The most simplest answer is, you know, the one you're supposed to go with.
Yeah, was
Like
Occam's razor.
you know?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, no, it's true, it's true. But after that, yeah, like you say, to try and just listen to people and you know, anyways, no, that's the letter.
Yeah, God.
Anyways, no, I probably should get going.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. People are going to be like, oh, I'm going to listen to 2.5 hours. If they can listen to a Joe Rogan podcast, and
that's it.
I should start taking clips of these, though.
Taking clips, yeah, because there were some parts there where we started looking up stuff.
Or when we're arguing and yelling. That's the best part.
So that's the money stuff.
The money. I was just about to say that it's the money maker.
I was saying that to Frank. I was like, Frank, it was great stuff what we had.
Well, it's true though.
But just there's just.
But the big picture thing is, it's my own fault for not taking my skills